Chapter 1994. Inside the First Realm Sea, on the extreme Tiger Island, when the experts received the news, they were all shocked. Lin Chun, that brat, has shown himself, becoming a deity in the Second Realm Sea. A sage king became a god. This guy ran to the Second Realm Sea, as expected of the Alchemist Association's king of speed. He really runs like a chicken. Let's go to the Second Realm Sea. We're going to. The 9 heavenly ghosts and the remaining 8,000 true gods all moved. In addition, Zhao Jihu and the others, as well as the 9 great sects under their command, mobilized their core experts and began to head towards the entrance of the second layer of Realm Sea. Winds and clouds converged as heroes vied for supremacy. With Lin Chun as their target, all the powerhouses launched a battle of life and death, a battle of pursuit, and a battle of support. 2 days later, outside the Star Continent, in the Two Boundaries Mountain, between the crouching tigers and coiling dragons, Sword Chi soared into the sky, and Sword Dao was swift and fierce. Layers of 5-colored clouds were dreamy and gorgeous. Suddenly, a ray of world-shaking divine light rose up and shot straight into the 9 heavens without dissipating. Clang, clang, clang. The void exploded, and a dragon-like sword howl reverberated through the sky. Tens of thousands of sword beams soared into the sky. In the end, the 10,000 rays of sword light merged into one sword. The sword light continued to be silent, sharpened, and condensed. It contained the will of 1,000 years and the enlightenment of 10,000 years. The silver-dressed woman's eyes flashed. It really is a perfect advancement. Since ancient times, only an extremely small number of people have been able to achieve this. He grasped the laws of the great Tao at the first level of the divine realm, comprehending the laws of the sword at the first level of the divine realm. The number 1 genius of the deity realm, Lin Xingchen, had become a deity. According to his calculations, Lin Xingchen should have returned to the god world earlier than Yi Qingwu. However, Yi Qingwu was the first one to become a god and control the laws. She was the first one to reach a higher realm in the god realm. This wasn't because Lin Xingchen's talent and experience weren't as good as Yi Qingwu's. Instead, it was because he pursued a perfect advancement. When humans became gods, their saint energy transformed into divine energy, like a carp leaping through the dragon gate. Once one's divine power was cultivated to a whole new level, one would be able to come into contact with the great Tao laws of the universe and step into the realm of controlling the laws. This was the process of advancing from the late stage of the 4th level of the divine realm to the peak of the 4th level of the divine realm. There were 3,000 great Taos, and the power of laws was especially vast. True gods who did not have enough divine power could not contain the power of laws, so they needed to cultivate to the 4th level of divine power before they could attempt to comprehend the great Tao of laws. However, there were a few exceptions and geniuses in history. Some geniuses were blessed by the heavens and were born with divine bodies. They could comprehend and withstand the power of laws before reaching the 4th tier of the divine realm. Some were at the early stage of the 4th level of the divine realm, while others were at the 3rd level of the divine realm. Such geniuses were usually listed as geniuses with great achievements in the 5 continents. There were even heaven-defying people who had glimpsed the door of laws at the 2nd level of the divine realm. Only an extremely small number of existences were able to grasp the laws at the 1st level of the divine realm. This meant that the true God's divine power was at the same level as the 4th level of the divine realm when it was at the 1st level. It might even have surpassed the 4th level of the divine realm. This was the case for Lin Xingchen. He had even comprehended the laws of the sword the moment he became a deity. The cloud light gradually disappeared. The sword Qi was like the twining moonlight, sharp and fierce, entering the upright figure in white. The youth flew in the air. The cloud light was faintly discernible, and 5-colored clouds surrounded the divine sword. The youth in white carried a sword on his back and floated in the air. Within his golden eyes, endless sword chi was illusory. The sword world, formed by the sword storm, could easily break the universe with just a strand of divine power released by him. Lin Xingqian exhaled, absolute confidence appearing on his cold and handsome face. He said coldly, "This is what it means to perfectly ascend to godhood. As I cultivate, my sword-down nomological laws can grow without limit. As I advance to higher realms, I can control more and stronger nomological laws faster and earlier." When that time came, the difference between Lin Xingqian and the other geniuses at the 4th or 5th level of the divine realm would be like heaven and earth. Geniuses of the same level in the divine realm would not be able to withstand a single finger from him. After perfectly advancing to deity, his cultivation level would soar rapidly in a short period of time. At the very least, before he could comprehend more laws, there would be no bottlenecks. The lady in the silver dress flew over and said happily, "Xingqian, you have finally completed it." When Lin Xingqian saw the lady in the silver dress, his cold eyes became gentler. He smiled and said, "It's all thanks to Master's guidance and training." Lin Xingqian continued, "Master, you have concealed my aura so that the various forces in the divine realm would not know of my existence. Now that I have become a deity, when can I come out?" The woman in the silver dress smiled brightly. "There's no rush. Master is currently eliminating threats for you. As for that mortal Lin Shan that you mentioned earlier, Master has already sent 9 ghosts to capture him and take his life to eliminate the weeds for you." Rumble. Lin Xingqian suddenly exploded. His sword light was as bright as the stars, and it soared into the sky. The sharpness of the sword light was so sharp that it could tear the clouds apart. "What did you say?" Lin Xingqian's eyes were filled with madness. "You sent people to kill him?" The lady in the silver dress was stunned. Clang! The dragon roared, and the divine sword was unsheathed. The 5 Thearch's sword's hilt had veins that wrapped around Lin Xingqian's wrist. The 5 colored clouds on the sword body grew rapidly, and he slashed at the sky. Chi! Rip! The dimension of space was instantly torn apart by his sword-down nomological laws, and the barrier of the 2-world mountain was broken. The lady in the silver dress exclaimed, "Xingqian!" Rumble! Lin Xingqian turned into a sword light and rushed out of the 2-world mountain. His angry shout spread throughout the 2-world mountain. "This man can only die in my hands. No one can touch him, not even you. I want to kill him with my own hands." The lady in the silver dress had a serious expression. After hesitating for a moment, she formed a seal with her fingers, and a wisp of her divine spirit turned into a clone. She disappeared in a flash and chased after Lin Xingqian. The lady in the silver dress, main body, floated within the 2-world mountain. Her beautiful eyes looked into the distance, and she did not act rashly. "I have prepared for this game of chess for 30,000 years. There cannot be any mistakes." At the same time, in the second realm sea, the small island that was enveloped by the laws of yin and yang was being attacked by terrifying waves of divine power. Buzz! The 5 elements divine wheel array shone with 5 types of divine light. The divine light turned into a golden leopard, a wood lion, a water luan, a fire snake, and an earth dragon. The 5 types of laws appeared and turned into huge creatures that pounced over. The dozens of nomological true gods that tried to approach the island were all forced back. This little girl is probably at stage 8 of the divine realm. How terrifying. When did such a person appear in the realm sea? We actually didn't know about it all. She is using external power and can't hold on for long. Let's deal with her for a while more. She has already defended this place for 4 days. She can't hold on any longer. As long as we preserve our strength and attack later, Lin Shun, this big fish, will be ours. After the first batch of gods attacked crazily, they retreated to the side. The other forces seemed to have a tacit understanding and started to attack from other places. Zhao Anren, who was inside the yin and yang nomological barrier, was panting. Her palace dress was dyed red with blood. Blood flowed out of her 7 orifices. Her originally beautiful face became a ghastly sight, and blood flowed out of her eyes. Every time he breathed, the breath in his throat was filled with burning and scalding heat. It was hard to imagine what kind of desperate battle she had experienced. 100 or 1,000? Zhao Anren had forgotten how many enemies she had forced back. There was only one thought in her mind, and that was that she could not retreat. If she retreated here, she might regret it for the rest of her life. Chapter 1995. She looked at Zhao Anren, who did not take a step back even in death. She was like a sonorous rose that bloomed on the battlefield, heroic and cold. Fairy Scarlet held back her tears. She only met Lin Chun by chance, and this is all she can do. If a woman fights for the truth, the will that burst out is truly a willpower that can shock the world and make ghosts and gods weep. She had done all she could to help. Even so, Zhao Anren's situation was extremely bad. Even a divine-level alchemist could only help her a limited amount, let alone Fairy Scarlet, who was a spiritual plant of luck. At this time, more and more true gods had discovered Lin Chun. Moreover, the realm's sea powerhouses that surrounded this island were all consciously engaging in a war of attrition. Fairy Scarlet gritted her teeth. These old foxes. None of the realm's sea powerhouses intended to be used by others to kill Zhao Anren. They only used a portion of their strength to deliberately exhaust Zhao Anren. They were conserving their strength and guarding against each other. In case Zhao Anren fell, they would immediately rush up to kill Lin Chun and take the bounty. Buzz! Suddenly, a powerful divine power fluctuation came from the nine-colored light pillar. The silver-robed youth, who had been silent for a long time in the light pillar, began to completely disappear. What replaced it was a new kind of power. It was like an inextinguishable flame, a new will that burned from that ancient era until now. Fairy Scarlet clenched her jade-like hands and urged in her heart, hurry up, buzz, buzz. Space and time rippled, and a powerful divine soul erupted from Lin Chen's glabella. His primordial spirit broke into a divine soul. His flesh shell condensed into a divine body. His sacred power was promoted to divine power. However, what Fairy Scarlet did not expect was that Lin Chun did not come out of seclusion. He was still in a state of seclusion. At this time, Lin Chen's consciousness sneaked into his divine body. The powerful sacred power of the past had all transformed into a divine light that was like a red glow. Every inch of flesh and blood in his divine body seemed to contain mountains, rivers, sun, and moon. With a slight movement, it had the power to shatter heaven and earth. This is divine light. Light is the origin of the energy of a universe. This divine light is also known as divine energy and divine origin, but in the divine realm, it is collectively known as divine power. The Saint Force has transformed into divine force. My cultivation level is now at the first level of the divine realm. However, Lin Chun felt that he wasn't done yet. A bit of light was guiding him. His consciousness followed the source of the light and came to the empty space of Tai. This place was filled with darkness. Lin Chun's divine power seemed to have disappeared. Tai space-time was a mental cultivation method space that belonged to the Tai Heaven Fu technique. Lin Chun's consciousness could sense that there was only a little red flame inside the greater one space-time. It burned more and more fiercely until it stopped burning in front of Lin Chun's consciousness. Lin Chun saw billions of volcanoes surging within the flickering flame. It was the hottest temperature in the world, like the energy produced when the universe first exploded. This little bit of scarlet fire had actually used up all of his previous savings. Even the amount he had used to become a god was far less than this. Fire could expel the cold and burn everything. It could be violent and gentle depending on the user. Lin Chun's personality and consciousness were like flames, burning from the lower realm to the divine realm. It was as if he was born to walk this path. His life was as transparent as fire. His fighting spirit was as hot as fire. His belief burned until now. It was as if he didn't need to specially comprehend it. Lin Shun, was born like fire. When Lin Shun reached out to touch this scarlet fire, Tai space-time was instantly ignited by the scarlet fire. Inside his body, a wisp of scarlet fire that reigned above all flames appeared. The strange phenomenon in the sky above the island changed again. A beam of auspicious fire rushed out from the pillar of light. Scarlet light filled the sky. Violent and surging divine fire scattered across the sky above the second layer of Realm C. The surging waves in Realm C were instantly ignited, turning into a sea of fire. Scarlet light rushed into the heavens. The gods that were attacking were first stunned, and then their pupils shrank. This is the strange phenomenon of the law of fire being born. This old man has never seen such an intense and violent law of fire being born. Hey, what kind of joke is this? This old man's eyes aren't playing tricks on me, right? He immediately comprehended the law when he became a god. The moment the experts that were attacking were shaken, it wasn't just Realm C that changed. In the distant Earth domain, one of the 5 continents of the divine realm, divine continent, on the island of deities, there were countless silver stone tablets erected on the mountainous peaks of the island that were as tall as a forest. Ancient divine talismans were inscribed on the steels. There was powerful divinity and divine might guarding the steels. This was the divine steels that recorded the achievements of divine arts. Geniuses from all over the 5 continents, as long as they achieved divine arts that even the gods were shocked by, they would be engraved on the divine steels, and their names would be passed down through the ages, spreading throughout the 5 continents. 1. A wisp of golden light shone. Today, the experts on the island of gods were all shocked. On a huge divine steels, endless golden light shone, dazzling and eye-catching. Oh, another genius has appeared? It's been 10 years. A new genius that has completed divine arts will appear in the 5 continents again. Interesting, it's the divine steels of Zichen's position, and the direction is Xing continent. Is it a genius from Xing continent? The moment the true gods gathered in front of the divine steels, the divine talismans on the steels burned with layers of golden light, and a series of divine talismans started to be engraved. Xing continent Lin Shun completed divine arts achievement, refining a divine pill in a day. The gods were in an uproar. Refining a divine pill in a day? Such a monstrous genius actually appeared in the path of alchemy. Before they had time to be shocked, they discovered that the golden divine talismans didn't stop and were still being engraved. Hiss! There's actually more than one divine art achievement. Good heavens! Xing continent Lin Shun. Whose genius is this? He's so fierce. While the gods were exclaiming, the divine steels were engraved again. Xing continent Lin Shun completed divine arts achievement, battling 10,000 true gods. 1 against 10,000? The god's jaws almost dropped to the ground. Whose genius was this? He was too fierce. However, the divine talismans were shining with golden light, and they were like dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. They didn't stop. There was more. The gods held their breaths tightly as they stared at the new divine steels. Xing continent Lin Shun completed divine arts achievement. When he became a god, he forged his divine body, molded his divine soul, and comprehended the laws of fire. At this moment, the countless experts on Pantheon Island instantly fell silent. After a long while, someone squeezed out a sentence from the gaps between his teeth. Is this F** King human? The raging waves of the sea of fire suddenly exploded. A black-robed, true god approached the 5 elements divine wheel array with the divine steps movement technique and slashed vertically with the divine saber in his hand. Chi! The dim water phoenix formed by the laws of water was broken and shattered into nothingness. Now's the time. The black-robed elder laughed sinisterly as his divine power erupted. He slashed wildly with the saber again, and the yin and yang law's boundary was completely shattered. The law's boundary was broken. Zhao Anren fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. Rumble! With great momentum, thousands of true deities instantly charged into the island. The black-robed elder rushed forward and laughed sinisterly. "This woman has wasted so much of my time. I'll kill you first." The black-robed elder suddenly slashed horizontally at the falling Zhao Anren. Clang! The divine saber's blade was suddenly stopped. The people who had charged into the island were stunned, and their hearts trembled. They actually didn't see clearly who had made a move and when. The gods looked up at the sky. The black-robed elder's divine saber was actually motionless, and 2 fingers had clamped the blade of his saber. He looked in shock at the young man in front of him with dark green divine wings and carrying Zhao Anren. He had actually stopped his saber with 2 fingers. However, the black-robed elder was even more in disbelief as he looked down at the huge hole in his chest. Before he died, he was filled with disbelief. From the beginning to the end, he didn't see clearly when Lin Shun had made a move. Chi! Red flames raged in Lin Chen's eyes, and his calm face was filled with monstrous killing intent. Everyone here today must die. Chapter 1996. Before Zhao Anren lost consciousness, he fell into a warm embrace. "Is it finally done? I'll leave the rest to you." Zhao Anren's heartstrings relaxed. He lowered his eyes and fainted from his serious injuries. Lin Shun looked around. The violent fire laws were like raging waves. With Lin Shun as the center, they burned crazily and surged into the sky. Is this kid really a first-tier divine realm cultivator who just became a god? His fire laws actually far exceed my 5th-tier divine realm cultivation. No, this is very wrong. Everyone, listen to my orders. Retreat a distance and observe the situation. This old man smells the scent of death. This kid's methods are a bit wild. Don't be in a hurry to attack. When they saw Lin Shun instantly kill the black-robed elder, a large number of Realm C powerhouses suddenly stopped. They were bewildered and activated their laws to defend themselves. Boom, boom, boom. The commotion was vast and mighty. At this moment, more true gods began to approach, forming a terrifying encirclement. However, seeing that the people who arrived first didn't make a move, and the people who came later didn't make a move either, they sized up the situation. They had long been used to being cautious in the Realm C. These powerhouses seemed crazy, but in reality, none of them had truly lost their minds. Especially the laws of fire that intended to incinerate the sky. It was far stronger than ordinary laws of fire. Golden Battle God set charge, 0%. Extreme Wind God set. Wind God arm armor. Wind God leg armor, 0%. Wind God wings, 13%. High level set essence, 0 points. The host Phantom Runes level is too low. The Phantom clones can't copy the host laws. They can only copy divine power. After the previous life and death battle and pursuit, Lin Shen's high-level set essence had been completely depleted. Only the Wind God wings remained. Scarlet, take good care of her. Lin Shun placed Zhao Anren into the Providence plant pouch and handed her to Fairy Scarlet to take care of. Lin Shun didn't feel the joy or excitement of becoming a god. There was only monstrous killing intent. He only wanted to kill every enemy in front of him. The Wind God wings flapped slightly, sighed. His vision suddenly spun, and the world reversed. A purple-armored true god at 5th-tier divine realm was suddenly stunned. Why did the world suddenly reverse? The next moment, his pupils constricted as he saw himself, who had lost his head in midair. No, it wasn't that the world had been turned upside down. It was his head that had flown off. The moment his head flew through the air, the purple-armored true god realized that he was done for. Bang, 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 bang. 27 5th-level true gods were blasted apart in an instant like instantaneous lightning, heads flying, flesh and blood flying wildly. At this moment, all of the true divinities present felt their hearts tremble, as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Lin Shun had completely disappeared. Regardless of whether it was the 5th, 6th, or 7th level of the divine realm, the true gods with all kinds of resources and skills. None of them could detect Lin Chen's figure at this moment. Successfully strengthened orange-grade top cultivation method battle god steel flame, plus 17. Total power increase, 670%. Consumed 289 divine talent points. Host has activated instant light, split shadows. The dark green divine light that burned with the laws of fire flashed swiftly in the sky, and it suddenly blasted through the defenses of the laws of a 6th-level divine realm expert with ease. That 6th-level divine realm expert looked at the hole in his dantian in disbelief as it pierced through his entire divine body. The violent and scorching laws of fire ignited his divine body, incinerating everything about him. He screamed in pain as he turned into ashes. The group of 7th-level divine realm experts gasped. Even an early-stage 6th-level divine realm expert was instantly killed. Slaying a god was as easy as fishing for something in a bag. Was he really at the 1st level of the divine realm? Host has received 2,889 divine cultivation method soul essences, 590 divine talent points, 80 high-grade set essences. The true gods quickly regrouped. Relying on their instincts and senses, they frantically activated their laws of nature, aiming at that blurry dark green divine light one after another. However, Lin Shun was like a divine light that disappeared in the blink of an eye, transforming into the king of speed. He swooped down continuously in the sky for an instant, then charged into the sky in an instant, avoiding all the attacks. Some of the true gods who were good at detecting auras could barely sense Lin Chen's movement trajectory, and the corners of their mouths trembled. Too fast. This was the 4-dimensional divine world. Why was this guy's godly speed as simple as galloping in the 3-dimensional universe? With just a pair of wind god wings, Lin Chen's speed had reached a level that even stage 8 divine realm experts might not be able to capture. Previously, Lin Shun had relied on the god Defying and the 4-piece wind god set to achieve such speed. Now he had such monstrous speed with just a 1st-stage divine realm cultivation and a pair of wind god wings. Boom! The wind god wings erupted with a divine light that shot into the sky. The dark green divine wind wrapped around Lin Shun, and his figure appeared in the sky. All the true gods were shocked. Consumed 590 high-grade set essences. Wind god wings charge, 90%. Wind god right greaves charge, 50%. Extreme wind god 2-piece set combination. Host speed of all attributes increased again, 110 times, 150 times. When the dark green greaves covered Lin Chen's right leg, he suddenly swung his leg in the air and circulated his heart sutra. The law of fire was activated, and a divine flame filling the sky was thrown out. Boom! Boom! Countless crimson flames swept down like a meteor shower, sweeping toward the thousands of true gods in a storm. Buzz! The divine flames shot through the sky like a meteor shower. In an instant, they split into 5 and suddenly shot out from 5 different directions. This scene was like a peerless sight. The red meteor shower that was so fast that it defied the heavens turned into a storm and swept over. What? Not good, retreat. Damn it. Can laws be used like this? The red meteor shower, burning with the laws of fire, fell like a meteor shower, pushing across the plain and crazily attacking all the true gods. Bang! 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 Flames soared into the sky, burning the entire sky into a sea of fire. Large amounts of laws and divine power were scattered and scattered. The sky outside the island could be said to be filled with divine flames, and casualties were everywhere. A large number of true gods were repelled, and many 5th-stage true gods fell directly into the realm's sea, burned full of holes, and died on the spot. Lin Chen's move actually killed more than 105th-stage true gods. The battle had only started for less than 10 breaths, and hundreds of true gods were already injured. Those with cultivation lower than middle stage, sixth stage, divine realm all suffered different degrees of burns. Only late stage, sixth stage, divine realm, and above retreated safely. It was a shocking sight. Mother asterisk her, why is this kid so strong? A sixth stage divine realm purple-clothed young woman covered her wound. Almost as soon as she finished speaking, the burning leg armor of the laws of fire was reflected in her eyes. Bang! A dark green light flashed, and the head flew off in a mess of blood and flesh. Host has obtained divine-level talent points, high-grade set essence. Consumed 480 points of high-grade set essence. Extreme wind god set left and right arm armor charge, 75%. Chi. Divine wind galloped like starlight, jumping through the void. With the wind god armor on, Lin Shun punched fiercely into a sixth-stage, true god's body and completely penetrated it. Hiss! When the experts saw this scene, all of them woke up from a dream. It was impossible for them to catch this brat with just a few of them present. No, it was better to say that whether they could survive or not was still a problem. Boom! Lin Shun transformed into a beam of divine light that swept through everything. Everywhere he went, there would definitely be gods dying. He killed until the gods fled in defeat, killing until the sky was full of whales, and his attributes soared all the way. When the gods hurriedly fled, their hearts were trembling with fear, and they were close to despair. They were clearly fleeing in many directions. But why did they have a kind of despair, as if there was no path to heaven and no door to hell? As if they were the ones being surrounded. Absolute suppression from the king of speed. Chapter 1997. Lin Shun nurtured his battle with battle. His momentum was unstoppable. Lin Shun's frenzied killing was like a flash battle, sweeping away everything in his path. Everyone could not even escape. The deities present couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes, let alone fight him. They were beaten up the entire time, and some were even killed instantly. They could not resist at all. It was as if he, who was only at the first tier of the divine realm, had surrounded all the experts. In the sky where the divine flame was burning, a cold man wearing a golden crown and a golden robe retreated from the battlefield with a solemn expression. Based on his combat experience of being at the middle stage of the seventh tier of the divine realm, Lin Shun's divine power and precept strength were about the same as those at the later stage of the fifth tier of the divine realm. However, Lin Shun was so strong that it made one's scalp go numb. Lin Shun's divine body had reached 100 desolates power after breaking through the limit. In addition to flesh shell awakening 600%, it was 700 desolates power. Just based on his body refinement strength, he could match those at the third tier of the divine realm. However, the most important thing was his divine soul and cultivation. His divine soul strength was comparable to precepts. As for Lin Shun's cultivation accumulation, it was especially terrifying. Just as Sage King cultivation alone, his sage power was more than 1,000 desolates power. After becoming a true god, Lin Shun, who was at the beginning stage of the first tier of the divine realm, had divine power equivalent to 11,000 desolates power. If the god's realm was compared based on pure strength, a true god at the peak of the divine realm, who could control precepts, would have more than 10,000 desolates power. The beginning stage of the fifth tier was 15,000 desolates power. The middle stage was 30,000 desolates power. The later stage was 50,000 desolates power, and the peak of the fifth tier was 80,000 desolates power. Lin Shun, who was at the first tier of the divine realm, had the cultivation of an ordinary true god at the fourth tier of the divine realm. This allowed Lin Shun to have the foundation to accommodate precepts after becoming a god, including the effects of the Tai Fu Tian technique and the supreme god possession talent. Lin Shun's divine power cultivation was equivalent to 55,000 desolates power. When this divine power was used on precepts, it was not inferior to the later stage of the fifth tier of the divine realm. Similarly, Lin Chen's divine soul was 4 times stronger than an ordinary initial stage divine soul. As a result, the actions of the vast majority of true gods were completely predicted by him. However, if it was only at this level, Lin Chen was still far from being able to contend against so many true gods. Among the true gods present, the weakest was at the perfected 4th level of the divine realm, an existence that controlled laws. Even if they did not join forces, they were not weak. If Lin Chen only had the law of fire and the cultivation of the first tier of the divine realm, he would not be able to fight against Qianchen alone. The turning point was Lin Chen's extreme wind god set. Unlike the golden battle god set that always exceeded its limits, Lin Chen could use cultivation techniques when using the wind god set. Under the condition that all of his attributes were boosted, Lin Chen's divine flame sky, which was activated by the law of fire, increased his speed by more than 100 times. The attacking speed of a late-stage 5th-tier divine realm expert suddenly increased by more than 100 times. It was like an expert who was used to dealing with supersonic attacks, suddenly encountering an attack that was more than 100 times faster than the speed of sound. Who could react in time? Under such a terrifying attack, coupled with the talent of instant light split shadows, ordinary true gods had no way to resist at all. This was an absolute suppression that truly belonged to the domain of speed, beating the true gods of the realm sea to the point that they could not fight back. The Extreme Wind God set was a trump card that was not inferior to the Battle God set. Finally, after Lin Chen became a true god, it released its supreme divine might. Second Realm Sea, on a small silver island. On the peak of the small silver island, an old man and a young man were looking through the void. The white-clothed child shouted happily and excitedly, "So powerful! Master, this big brother is stronger than anyone we have seen before." The linen-clothed old man stroked his beard and said with a smile, "He is indeed not ordinary." Then the white-clothed child said dejectedly, "But there are at least tens of thousands of true gods coming. What about this big brother?" The white-clothed child asked curiously, "Master, how does he compare to the teacher you mentioned before?" The linen-clothed old man said with a smile, "He is still young. Give him some time." Speaking of his teacher, the linen-clothed old man's eyes were filled with memories. He sighed and said, "Teacher is the unprecedented number 1 person of the human race." Back then, not long after he became a true god, he alarmed the 3 god clans and sent hundreds of thousands of true gods to gather. The god kings and god lords of the main army were all mobilized. The white-clothed child's face was filled with shock. God kings and god lords were mobilized too? The linen-clothed old man smiled heroically. That was the beginning of our historical journey. Teacher led us to battle, crossing the realm sea 7 times, taking over the 5 continents, attacking the heavenly star field, and taking over the 9-world mountain. Every battle created a miracle for the human race. In the end, we grew to an existence that even the 3 god clans could not compare to. Unfortunately, the end that we thought was just the beginning. As if recalling that final battle, the linen-clothed old man closed his eyes quietly, and many emotions turned into a sigh. Second Realm Sea, Extreme South. Host has used the Extreme Wind God set, increasing all attributes by 210 times, 240 times, 280 times, 330 times. The island collapsed and burned into a sea of fire. Divine light flickered in the sky and pierced through many true gods. Flame flash. Lin Chen turned around in the air and threw a kick over. In an instant, the fire laws of nature were like a roaring fire dragon, bursting forth in an instant. Chi, rip, W watt. When the golden crown fell, and the early stage level 7 true god in the golden robe was split into 2 halves, his expression was filled with disbelief. My speed can actually still increase. The laws of nature were destroyed, and the divine spirit disappeared. Even someone as strong as an early stage level 7 true god could not withstand more than 10 rounds of the extreme wind god set's full-powered firepower. Lin Chen's gaze swept across. Not a single one of the first batch of true gods that attacked him survived. When he released the divine dragon to collect attribute light balls for him, his doppelgangers were frantically refining divine jades in Lin Chen's Providence plant pouch to replenish the divine power they had consumed. The consumption of divine power when using the extreme wind god set was not just a little bit, especially when Lin Chen was still madly using fire laws of nature. If not for the 6 doppelgangers refining divine jades to replenish themselves, he would have overdrawn his divine power long ago. Before reaching level 8 of the divine realm, the amount of divine power required to use laws of nature was no small matter. For someone like Lin Chen who used laws of nature so crazily, it was almost equivalent to using 800 to kill 1,000 enemies. Lin Chen lowered his head and looked at his palm. This is the divine realm that I, Lin Chen, have entered. If I can advance to level 3 or level 4 of the divine realm, I might be able to control more laws of nature earlier. When that time comes, I definitely won't be an undefeatable opponent when facing level 9 of the divine realm. Host has obtained a divine treasure chest, opening it to obtain 4,000 divine level heavenly Tao points. Host has obtained a divine treasure chest, opening it to obtain 30,000 divine level rune energy. Host has obtained a divine treasure chest, opening it to obtain 100,000 divine level cultivation technique soul essences. Host has obtained a divine core treasure chest, opening it to obtain energy divine core, divine guidance fragment for 6. The moment the divine dragon finished collecting the attribute light balls, the sky suddenly darkened. Waves of vast divine power pressed down on him, and the surging sea became calm and peaceful. It was especially stifling. Are they here? Lin Chen's expression was very calm. He knew very well that he was about to face a strong enemy and a fierce battle. Compared to that, the battle just now could not even be considered a warm-up. Chapter 1998. Divine might was vast, and numerous auras surged over like waves. He really came without any effort. Looks like he killed quite a few Realm C experts. I sense that the number of true gods that died nearby exceeded 1,000. He's really an extremely monstrous young man. If these guys knew how to work together, they wouldn't have died like this. How stupid. A group of figures floated in the air in many directions. It was Zhao Jihu and the others, as well as the 9 major sects under them. Zhao Jihu's late-stage, 8th-stage, divine realm aura enveloped Lin Chen's position like an overlord. It was as if he would kill him with all his might as long as he took a step back. Lin Chen floated in the air, the wings of wind flapping. He was calm and unhurried. Consumed 9,705 high-grade set essence. Charging Golden Battle God set. While the clone refined divine jades to replenish the consumption, it was also absorbing the massive amount of attribute points that it had obtained previously. Not only that, but more and more forces arrived. There were experts from the First Realm C and Second Realm C. Some even gathered more than 10 7th-stage divine realm experts. The lineup was very powerful. Some Second Realm C forces were very ruthless and vicious. They used the power of their entire sect to participate in the encirclement and annihilation of Lin Chen. 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, over 10,000. More and more experts arrived. Over 10,000 true gods came either in batches or in groups. Their cultivation was definitely not lower than 4th stage divine realm. They stared at Lin Chen like a pack of wolves looking at a plate of meat. To everyone, this reward of 1 million was no longer something that a single person could take. It depended on which force could obtain Lin Chen's head and obtain the reward. Next was the group battle. Zhao Jihu said ferociously, "Kid, you had a lot of fun last time. This time, I want to see if you're still a clone." Lin Chen said calmly, "Brother Clown, you're here." Zhao Jihu was so angry that his veins popped out. He shouted angrily, "Kill him!" Boom! Without waiting for Zhao Jihu to make a move, a vortex-like nebula suddenly exploded in the sky above, churning wildly. An aura that was more than 10 times more terrifying than the true gods present descended. Zhao Jihu and the others were startled, but soon after, their faces were filled with fear as they opened up a path. A group of true gods suddenly walked out of Shun Shi's burning vortex of stars. God shall rise. 8,000 true gods flew through the air from the vortex, and the 9 great phantoms in the lead released an aura that suppressed all the experts present. Some of them were hunchbacked old men, some were youths, and some were women who covered their faces. But without exception, their cultivations far surpassed those of the true divinities present. Moreover, they all exuded the unique aura of the Azura race. 9 great heavenly ghosts. 9 ghosts and myriad deities. Such a lineup was like there was no path to heaven or door to hell. Buzz! All of a sudden, Lin Shen's 2 godhead fragments started to spin at high speed, and a steady stream of energy flowed into Lin Shen's divine body. Lin Shen's exhaustion was greatly replenished. His godly power was fully restored, and his divine soul was restored to its peak state. In fact, his godly power and divine soul had even surpassed their peak state. This is... While Lin Shen was amazed, his physical strength started to soar. 1,000 desolate power, 1,500 desolate power, 2,000 desolate power, 3,000 desolate power, and finally, it soared to 5,000 desolate power before slowing down. 5,000 desolate power might not be much, but if he used it as a foundation, the power of the Ares set would be far greater than any previous use. Host has encountered an enemy with the bloodline of the Azura race. Passive energy godhead. Azura's nemesis fragment activated. Enemy target has 30% to 50% of the Azura race's bloodline. Azura's nemesis fragment activated only 30% of the effect. These guys actually have the bloodline of the Azura race? Lin Shen's fighting spirit was high, and he smiled for the first time. Danger and opportunity coexist. At this moment, the heavenly ghost with a green vertical eye between his brows said, "He killed so many of us and even became a true god. I have to say, he's a monster." The sword god in white among the gods gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, Lin Shun, let me see how you're going to escape this time. That's all." Suddenly, Lin Shun said something shocking. "That's all the people who want to kill me today?" The gods were stunned. Only? What a guy. With more than 20,000 true gods and 9 stage, 9 divine realm experts guarding, no one dared to say that they could escape unscathed unless the divine king was alive. What kind of trick was this Lin Shen playing? Buzz. Ripples appeared in heaven and earth as the curved 4-dimensional space condensed into a powerful barrier. It was the moment the 9 heavenly ghosts finished setting up the seal. This time, no matter how fast Lin Shen was, he couldn't escape. Noisy kid, die. The black-robed elder, who was the leader of the 9 heavenly ghosts, flicked his sleeves and struck out with his palm. The dark yellow divine power in his palm suddenly skyrocketed like the yellow springs, exuding a deathly aura. The divine power transformed into a giant palm that was 10,000 feet long like a horned dragon and slammed toward Lin Shen. At this moment, the gods were shocked, and many of them made a prompt decision to retreat a large distance. Death laws of nature? It's actually the death laws of nature within the top 1,000 of the 3,000 laws of nature. This old ghost used a killer move right from the start. The 9 heavenly ghosts had no intention of capturing Lin Shen alive at all. They crushed him with their killer moves right from the start. The attack of a Stage 9 Divine Realm expert was on a completely different level from the Stage 7 and Stage 8 Divine Realm experts that Lin Shen had fought previously. Buzz. In an instant, golden light illuminated the world. Golden light circulated in the entire sky, and a beam of golden divine light rose. Boom! Bang! The black-robed elders' sky-covering palm suddenly shattered, and the death laws of nature contained within were crushed into nothingness. With Lin Shun as the center, an invincible divine might that dominated the heavens surged into the sky. Wherever the divine light shone, the praises of the god of war reverberated throughout the world. Host used Golden Battle God Set. Charge, 10%. Host used Battle God Set's accessory, Battle God Spear. Wearing the Golden Battle God armor, Lin Shun held the Battle God Spear in his hand as he stepped into the air proudly, raising the spear slightly. It actually broke through. The 9 heavenly ghosts were shocked. Everyone, listen up. There's something strange about this kid. Attack together. Before the order was given, the heavenly ghost with the green vertical eye narrowed his eyes. He clearly saw that Lin Shun's gaze was locked on all the true gods present. Lin Shun held the spear with both hands and raised it high above his shoulders. The green-eyed heavenly ghost suddenly shouted coldly, "No! Quick, defend! Protect our people!" 55,000 divine tier talent points have been consumed. Host has activated the strongest orange grade talent, the ultimate heaven-defying talent. Ultimate heaven-defying talent state. When the host releases an attack with killing intent, if the enemy is unable to defend against the host's attack, when the host breaks through the defense and causes damage, the enemy will be killed instantly. The Golden Battle God set is continuously increasing the host's pure strength and is exceeding the limit. The charging consumption is accelerating. Holding the Battle God Spear in his hand, Lin Shun's eyes shone with an unprecedented azure divine light. There's no enemy in the world that I can't defeat. Chapter 1999. The War God Spear released an unprecedented golden divine light, dominating heaven and earth. Clang! Rumble! Lin Shun suddenly brandished the War God Spear. The tip of the spear tore through the sky, its sharpness soaring to the heavens. Cosmic light collapsed, tearing apart dimensions. This spear was dominating the world. This spear swept across the realm sea. This spear, the unique and righteous. What was reflected in everyone's eyes was the golden light of the war god that contained the entire four-dimensional world, breaking through thousands of caddies, breaking the world with one strike. The golden divine light swept across the entire sky in 480 degrees, covering the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Rumble. Bang. 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 Space disintegrated and exploded. Laws collapsed, and divine power collapsed. When the 9 heavenly ghosts deployed their law defense, they were repelled for the first time. Tens of thousands of true gods were sent flying all over the sky, and their divine light dissipated. Countless divine lights dimmed and disappeared in an instant. The peerless power that swept across heaven and earth was released in an instant, stirring up waves that were tens of thousands of feet high, and the sky seemed to collapse in an instant. The southernmost part of the entire second realm sea was instantly stirred up, and the sun and moon lost their light. When that stable space in the realm sea was swept by the divine spear shining with golden light, it turned into broken ruins with an unstoppable momentum. When the 9 heavenly ghosts barely stabilized their bodies, they patted their chests, their eyes full of shock. What a terrifying young man. No, 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 the green-eyed heavenly ghost said in disbelief. Then, when the 9 heavenly ghosts saw the scene in front of them, they were instantly dumbfounded. The faces of the many true gods that were blasted away in the void were filled with horror and despair. Their bodies were like shattered porcelain, and their divine bodies were cracked and covered in cracks. How is this possible? My ambitions, my lofty aspirations, will actually vanish like smoke in thin air here. There are actually such gods in the world. The murmurs of everyone before they died were full of despair. What divine artifacts and divine bodies, what laws and divine power, what overlords of a region, what peerless geniuses at this moment, they all had the same ending. When the wind blew, the gods whose divine bodies were cracked, along with their laws and divine artifacts, as well as their divine bodies and consciousness, turned into fragments and dissipated. What a domineering scene! What a heaven-defying moment! Even someone as powerful as the old man in the linen robe who gazed through the void was surprised for the first time. Just a moment ago, this young man was still surrounded by many true gods. However, he only used one spear to sweep away the chaos in the world. At this moment, as far as the eye could see, there were actually very few opponents. In the end, only 23 true gods were left alive. Zhao Jihu and the other island masters were completely dumbfounded. All the true gods with cultivation bases lower than level 8 had actually turned into fragments and vanished. Instant kill. The war god spear had instantly slain 10,000 deities. The 9 heavenly ghosts weren't a bunch of loose sand, but rather a group of gods united into a formidable force. But in front of him, he didn't even have the power to fight back. Instant kill with a single spear. Many experts' mouths trembled as their souls trembled as they stared at the golden armored figure holding the divine spear. Even the 9 great heavenly ghosts did not dare to act rashly. Even if the 9 of them joined forces, they would not be able to achieve such a terrifying result. When he stood between heaven and earth, the might of the god of war covered the heavens and the earth. He actually had an invincible spirit. Standing in front of him, they couldn't even muster up the will to fight. Host consumed 4,400 god-tier heavenly Tao points to activate the immortal divine core to heal injuries. Golden War God set. Remaining charge, 5%. Lin Shun had used all his strength in that spear strike by borrowing the power of the Azura's mortal divine core fragment. He had even exceeded the load and consumed 5% of the charge to fire a shot second only to a god king. The shot had a huge range and affected countless true gods, injuring them and directly triggering the ultimate heaven-defying talent. However, Lin Shun didn't underestimate his opponent in the slightest. Stinging pain? My birthmark is actually stinging? He placed his palm on his chest. At this moment, his star birthmark actually felt a burning pain. He had never encountered such a feeling before. It was as if some powerful existence was approaching him, and it was extremely fast. In an instant, Lin Shen's gaze shifted to the distant horizon. It's coming. Clang. Bang. Suddenly, the sound of a sword whistling like a dragon's roar sounded, and the sky suddenly split open. When the remaining true gods looked over, under the split sky, a divine sword actually split open the universe and slowly descended. It was a mysterious sword that was about 5 feet long. The sword's full appearance couldn't be seen, and it flowed with 5-colored clouds. Its sharp sword light seemed to be able to cut through 3,000 great Daos in the universe. The remaining true gods subconsciously covered their eyes, their hearts filled with shock. Even if they had entered the 8th stage of the divine realm, the divine body integration stage, when they looked at that divine sword, they still felt a piercing pain in their eyes that made them bleed. It was as if even their divine soul's divine sense was about to be cut off, and they couldn't see the true appearance of the divine sword. The most terrifying thing was that the sword actually had a unique sword aura that far surpassed the might of a god king. That was the might of a supreme god arch. If a god master were to wield this sword, perhaps a single sword strike could wipe out dozens of 3-dimensional universes. Lin Shun had the protection of the golden battle god set, and no divine might could suppress him. He could clearly see the true appearance of this divine sword. On the sword hilt, 2 ancient runes were engraved, 5 thearchs. This sword, in Lin Chen's memory, a figure that had been separated from him for 12 years reappeared. That was an opponent that Lin Shun had never lost to or won against since he met him. Above the split sky, the divine sword with 5-colored clouds flowing around it was suddenly held by a person. The sword's sharpness was restrained, and the person slowly held it in his hand. At this moment, heavy snow began to fall from the sky. Heavy snow swirled in the air, and the temperature of the world suddenly dropped to the lowest point. The 9 ghosts felt slightly suffocated. That wasn't real snow, but the divine attainment stage that was formed by an extremely powerful sword intent. Heavy snow fell, and the cold wind was biting cold. The young man in a white robe was untainted by dust, and he held the divine sword with 5-colored clouds flowing around it. He walked in the air and slowly walked in front of all the true gods. He looked down at Lin Shun from above, and his golden eyes were filled with arrogance and absolute confidence. Young Master Xingqian. The 9 ghosts were shocked and knelt on one knee. It was Lin Shun, whom Lin Shun had met at the sacred boundary. However, when the wisp of consciousness that the silver-dressed woman had placed in Lin Chen's body saw Lin Chen's true body, her heart was in turmoil. It's that bastard. He's actually not dead. The silver-dressed woman's consciousness cried out in shock. However, Lin Xingqian didn't even look at the 9 ghosts. He walked straight toward Lin Shun, and when he looked at Lin Shun, his golden eyes flashed with an intense battle intent. The tip of his sword was pointed at Lin Shun, and Lin Xingqian immediately said, "You're stronger than before, and more complete as well. It's worth dying in my hands." "Is that so?" The war god pointed his spear at Lin Xingqian. Lin Shun said indifferently, "Then let's see who's going to die today." The battle intent in their eyes burned as if they wanted to burn down the entire universe. There was no probing, no guessing. There was only a monstrous battle intent to kill the other party the moment they met. Sword god Lin Xingqian versus heaven-defying practitioner Lin Shun. It was like a battle of fate. The moment the two of them stepped into the divine attainment stage, they welcomed a battle to the death. Chapter 2000. Lin Xingqian flew into the air with his sword, and the cloud light surging from the 5 arch swords made the 9 heavenly ghosts retreat subconsciously. The green-eyed heavenly ghost pondered and said, "What a terrifying sword. That divine sword is far beyond ordinary divine artifacts. High-grade divine artifacts, supreme-grade divine artifacts, and even law divine artifacts are not worth a mention in front of it." Zhao Jihu and the others broke out in cold sweat. Why did the confrontation between 2 first-tier divine realm experts give him a sense of oppression that made him unable to retreat? A group of 8th-tier divine realm experts was afraid of 2 first-tier divine realm experts? The scene was extremely strange. While gripping the war god's spear tightly, Lin Shun released his 6 illusionary doppelgangers. They quickly spread out in all directions, helping Lin Shun collect the attribute light balls. The woman in the silver dress sent a secret voice transmission. "Stop his clones. Don't give him any chance." The woman in the silver dress couldn't see the meaning of Lin Chen's actions. Since she couldn't predict the opponent's intentions, she would stop all of his actions. Zhao Jihu and the others seemed to have received the order. They control the laws, and the dozen or so 8th-tier divine realm experts immediately spread out. The woman in the silver dress sent another voice transmission to the 9 ghosts. "The 9 of you, if anything happens to Xingqian, immediately besiege Lin Chun." Yes, when the 9 ghosts received the order, boom! Before the 2 of them could fight, the clouds in the sky changed again. A glazed pillar of light cut through the clouds. While everyone was on guard, the light landed beside Lin Shun. Lin Xingqian narrowed his eyes. This woman, he had met this woman in the sacred boundary before. She was a defeated opponent. He didn't expect her to grow to such a height in just 100 years in the divine realm. Suddenly, the woman in the silver dress sent a voice transmission. "Xingqian, don't act rashly." Lin Xingqian frowned. "You want to stop me from killing him?" The woman in the silver dress said, "No. An expert has arrived. My soul consciousness can't be released and can't help you in battle. Let's wait and see." At this moment, the glazed light dissipated and a beautiful and enchanting figure appeared. The woman's cheeks were as beautiful as peach blossoms, and her beautiful eyes were bright. The girl's jade-like dimples were suffused with a hint of charm. She was truly a stunning beauty. The woman was surprised, as if this was the first time she had seen the young man in golden armor. Curiosity and surprise were written all over her face. Even though they had been separated by 12 years, Lin Shen recognized him at a glance. Lin Shan said in astonishment, "Little Demonis, what are you doing here?" Yi Qingwu raised her eyebrows. "Nonsense, of course I'm here to help you. Could it be that I'm here to sleep with you? Do you know how much this grandaunt had to pay to rush over from the divine desolate star domain? You've just become a god, and you've already caused so much trouble. Why don't you poke a hole in the sky?" Seeing the little Demonis again, Lin Shen's taut heartstrings relaxed for the first time in a long time. He teased, "Things are different now. Didn't you think I didn't cause enough trouble before? Now that I've caused a lot of trouble, you're starting to teach me a lesson." "Humph." Yi Qingwu stood behind him. "I'll help you block a dozen old ghosts of World Sea Level 8 deity realm." Lin Shen said, "Can you withstand it?" Yi Qingwu stroked her hair. "Better than you. Another young junior has come. Arrogant woman, you're courting death." The 9 heavenly ghosts suddenly took a step forward and rushed towards Lin Shen and Yi Qingwu. "Be careful," Lin Shen shouted. The war god spear spun and was about to kill. "Don't worry." Yi Qingwu's smile bloomed, enchanting and beautiful. "I'm not the only one here." Shwa, shwa, shwa. 8 rays of divine light were like meteors in the sky. When they cut through the night sky, they suddenly blocked in front of the 9 heavenly ghosts. Dazzling divine light that could battle the heavens and earth erupted with power, cutting off the 8 heavenly ghosts. "What? This aura? You're from the divine continent, the war god family?" When the 8 heavenly ghosts were stopped, the pupils of the last green-eyed heavenly ghost shrank. In the space right in front of him, a white wrist appeared, and a seemingly delicate fist, carrying with it the power to destroy the heavens and earth, punched towards his face. Not good. The green-eyed heavenly ghost's scalp went numb. He actually felt the pressure of death from this punch. The green-eyed heavenly ghost turned his hand and pushed his palm forward. When the fist and palm collided, billowing smoke exploded in the sky. Both sides retreated. A tall and beautiful figure landed in the center of the 8 figures. The 8 figures stood tall and straight. Their auras were refined and powerful, as though they had been tempered thousands of times and had reached the peak of perfection. The 9 heavenly ghosts looked solemn. The 8 divine guards of the Wu family. The 8 of them smiled faintly. 9 heavenly ghosts that wander between 2 continents? Interesting. Didn't they say that even the divine king couldn't move these 9 old ghosts? Why are they attacking a young man? It seems that the master behind today's battle is not to be underestimated. The 8 divine guards of the Wu family shone brightly. They were not inferior to the 9 heavenly ghosts. The tall and beautiful figure at the front of the 8 divine guards flicked her long hair. Her hair danced in the wind as she snorted. "This man is under my protection. Who dares to touch him?" The 8 divine guards. In the distance, Lin Xingchen narrowed his eyes. The bloodline of the martial god. Following which, the tall girl in black waved at Lin Shun and smiled like a flower. "Master, wasn't I cool just now?" Lin Shan gave her a golden thumbs up. "You're almost catching up to me." A thumbs up from her master. Although her appearance had changed, her temperament remained the same. Lin Chen recognized her at a glance. She was Shun Ling Shuang. From the moment she brought people to help him, Lin Chen knew that she must have found her true family. From the 9 states to the divine world, this girl had finally grown up. She had grown to the extent that she could protect her master. Ling Shuang smiled. "Little sister Ling Shuang, long time no see." Shun Ling Shuang said happily, "Ah, big sister fox, you're here too." Zhao Jihu's mouth twitched. "Damn, where did this Lin Chen come from? Even the divine continent's martial god mansion is here." Just as the various forces formed into 2 forces and were about to break out, the phantom doppelganger was still silently collecting the attribute light balls. Chi! In an instant, the space was torn apart, and a beam of black divine light descended. The experts of the Realm Sea were dumbfounded. The space of the Realm Sea was torn apart. This was definitely not something that a ninth-stage divine realm expert could do. Another expert had arrived. A black-robed youth slowly walked out of the black pillar of light. The youth had white hair and red eyes. When he looked at the experts present, the 9 heavenly ghosts and the experts of the realm, felt their scalps go numb. The aura of the red-eyed youth was faintly discernible, shattering the space. Zhao Ju subconsciously took a few steps back. Divine, divine king. Yi Qingwu's beautiful eyes flickered as she fell into deep thought. This youth was actually a divine king. Oh, the red-eyed youth looked at Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen in surprise. That sword has the aura of 5 divine emperors. I didn't expect that we would meet a big fish that is not inferior to our target. Who knows, it might even be stronger. Chapter 2001. The red-eyed youth looked around and locked his gaze on Lin Shun as he spoke calmly. Do you want to leave with me, or do you want me to cripple you before taking you away? Without waiting for Lin Chen's reply, Shunling Shuang stood in front of the red-eyed youth and pointed at him. Leave your grandma. You're the one who needs to crawl. The 8 divine guards. Why do I feel like there's something wrong with the young miss today? It's like her mouth is smeared with honey. The red-eyed youth put on a fake smile. Martial God Manners people are still so annoying. Black divine light surged from his fingertips as the red-eyed youth pointed at Shunling Shuang. Chi, a palm suddenly appeared like a ghost and patted the red-eyed youth's shoulder. A cold voice came from behind the red-eyed youth. What do you want to do to my daughter? You're jealous. The red-eyed youth's expression instantly turned serious. He clenched his fist and punched behind him. Bang! The fist and palm collided. Divine kings were fighting. A blue-robed figure caught the red-eyed youth's punch. The expressions of many experts changed slightly. This person was actually also a divine king. Zhao Jihu and the others were even more shocked. Today, because of 2 youngsters, so many experts were attracted. The power of the 2 divine kings' fight didn't seem strong, but in reality, the space within 100 feet was collapsing like paste. Lin Xingchen's sword had cut off the atmosphere in the sky above Realm C, and the fight between the 2 divine kings had directly shattered the space above Realm C. Shun Lingshuang cheered. Daddy hit him. Daddy? Hearing the way he was addressed, Nine Ghost's heart was filled with a name. The next generation of martial god manner, Wu Changtian, the red-eyed youth sneered. Moral old man, isn't your martial god manner known for being civilized and reasonable? Wu Changtian sneered. I don't have the habit of being reasonable with animals. How does it feel to be a dog? Being a dog of the divine realm is much better than being a god's slave. You've never been hard before, so of course you think it's better to be soft. The youngsters over there know more about integrity than you do. Integrity? Only those who are alive have the right to talk about integrity. The red-eyed youth suddenly launched an attack, his 5 fingers clenching into a fist. Boom! With a loud explosion, the one who was repelled was actually the red pupil divine king with a strong attitude. When he took a dozen steps back, he looked at Wu Changtian and exclaimed, Your cultivation level. Wu Changtian flicked his sleeves. Of course I'm stronger than you. He glanced at Lin Shun from the corner of his eyes. Young people, the younger generation will surpass us in time. Wu Changtian's voice reverberated in Lin Chen's mind. This was his secret voice transmission. I heard from Ling Shuang that you took her in when she was in the lower realm. I represent the entire martial god estate in thanking you. The martial god estate will take responsibility for what happened today. Thank you for your care, senior. Lin Shen replied via soul transmission. In fact, Wu Zhangtian was a little worried when he brought everyone out. As the leader of the martial god manor, if he personally got involved, it would affect the entire organization. Just like the Tiani Divine Nation, the martial god manor also had many factions eyeing them covetously. However, when he rushed over and personally sensed the changes in the battle, when he witnessed Lin Chen's battle achievements, he completely gave up on this thought. A first-level divine realm expert could destroy 10,000 deities with a single spear strike. In any era, he would be a monster in the future. This young man was worth the risk of the martial god estate protecting him. Similarly, Lin Xingqian also attracted Wu Changtian's attention. There was a trace of indescribable pressure on this child's body. This was the first time he had seen such a feeling. A first-level divine realm expert could make a divine king feel pressure? If this was spread out, even the people of the world would not believe it. The red-eyed youth sneered. I'm not the only one who came today. Wu Changtian, do you want to be the savior of the world? I'm afraid you don't have that ability. Wong, Wong, Wong. As soon as his voice fell, the space fluctuated. Existences with auras so powerful that they could shatter the universe appeared out of thin air. They were either used with powerful auras, hunchbacked old men with unfathomable depths, enchanting women, or domineering men. The pupils of the 9 heavenly ghosts shrank. The experts of the realm, could not help but swallow their saliva. They had never seen such a lineup before. A total of 9 divine kings. Counting in that red-eyed youth, there were actually 10 divine kings. If those reclusive powerhouses of the Second Realm did not come into being, 10 divine kings could virtually sweep away the vast majority of the forces in the Second Realm. I didn't expect that Celestial Emperor Fuz was actually still passed down. Really can fight. The times can create heroes, but it can't create myths. How can the will of a myth be easily extinguished? No wonder the higher-ups attach so much importance to him, exterminating myriad deities with one spear. If he is allowed to grow up in the future, he can be considered a threat. If 10 divine kings can't capture a first-level divine realm expert today, will be considered nailed onto the pillar of shame in history. When the 9 divine kings appeared, they raised their eyes to look at Lin Xun and actually gave extremely high evaluations without prior agreement. Facing so many divine kings' gazes, it was already considered pretty good for ordinary powerhouses to be able to stand. But Lin Xun was calm and collected, as if he was not affected by any pressure, making the various divine kings view him even more highly. That young man, when the various divine kings looked at Lin Xingqian, their expressions were solemn. As divine kings, how shrewd were their eyes. They also felt that Lin Xingqian had an unprecedented possibility. Wu Zhangtian, dressed in a blue and white robe, had an indifferent expression. I knew long ago that you wouldn't come alone, the red-eyed youth said indifferently. There's no use in talking tough. Can you stop all of us by yourself? A beautiful divine king, wearing a peach blossom dress, chuckled. Wu Zhangtian of the martial god manner, what a good man. Do you want to join our star continent? With your strength, you'll definitely be able to obtain a better position than us. Let's not talk nonsense. Wu Zhangtian stepped into the air. Come at me together. The red-eyed youth sneered. You want to fight 1 against 10? You're probably living in a dream. Clang! Saber light erupted, emitting a dragon's roar. Like a falling galaxy, it slashed between the 2 divine kings' camps. The various divine kings were shocked. There were more powerhouses? Wrong. It's not 1 against 10. It's 3 against 10. As the man's cold voice echoed through the sky, a saber light split open the endless void, and 3 figures slowly walked out. 1 man and 2 women. The black-robed man walked with a saber, the green-robed woman had a worried expression, and the star-robed woman flew through the sky, looking extremely beautiful. At this moment, Lin Xun and Lin Xingqian's expressions changed slightly. The birthmark on Lin Xun's chest glowed, and he felt a warm current. As for Lin Xingqian, he felt a strong bloodline impulse, and he couldn't help but ask the consciousness in his body, Master, who are they? The woman replied, That's right, they are your clansmen and also members of the Lin family. The red-eyed youth exclaimed, You are from the Lin family. Weren't you expelled from the divine realm? However, Lin Wanxian and the black-robed man didn't answer. Their gazes were fixed on Lin Xun and Lin Xingqian in the distance. The black-robed divine king with the saber said in a trembling voice, Who is Xingqian? Lin Wanchuan's expression was full of shock. She looked at Lin Xun and then at Lin Xingqian, and her heart was in turmoil. Yi Qianqi immediately scolded. Uncle Mingxiao, Xingqian is him. We only have one Xingqian. Don't be fooled by the person in front of you. The moment Yi Qianqi pointed at Lin Shun, all the divine kings present were even more shocked. Lin Xingqian's gaze was fixed on Lin Shun. If you're Lin Xingqian, then who am I? Let me ask you this instead. My birthmark reacted to you. So who are you? The moment the two of them questioned each other, the scene was especially strange. The real and fake Lin Xingqian. Who was real and who was fake? Chapter 2002. Lin Xingqian. The Lin family's Lin Xingqian. Could he be? All the god kings were shocked. If they had heard this name somewhere else, they would have disdained it. However, if it was said by two god kings of the Lin family, especially when it was said by two young people who were so astonishingly talented, then this matter would become abnormal. Lin Xingqian, the #1 genius of the god realm. Back then, most of the top experts of the god realm and the 5 continents had heard of this legend. He was born in the most powerful manner and disappeared at the speed of a shooting star. The open and veiled struggles involved in this matter were probably far beyond the imagination of ordinary forces. The 10 god kings looked at Lin Shun at the same time. If this child was still the Lin Xingqian of the past, the #1 genius of the god realm had inherited the will of Fu Tiandi, then all the more reason for him to die here. Forever. He cannot be allowed to live. That's not right. Lin Shen's heart skipped a beat as he realized where the problem lay. How could the title of the #1 genius of the god realm be so easily obtained? Even if it was an ancient powerhouse or a top genius of a first-rate force, they still needed to achieve great feats in their cultivation. Only then could they prove their talent through actual combat and experience. If we calculate according to time and what the two of them told me back then, if I were Lin Xingqian, I would have been a newborn. Even if he was a genius of the god realm, the potential he displayed when he was born was not enough to be the #1 genius. How could such a title convince the masses? The #1 genius of the god realm, such a title that surpassed all living beings of the god realm. How could a newborn be crowned with such a title? This title might be the key to everything. Zhao Jiuxiao had once said that there was a divine fortune teller who had once made a divination with the Lin family. The black-clothed man, Lin Mingxiao, trembled as he forced himself to calm down. But why does the youth over there have the bloodline of my Lin family? The bloodline of the Lin family. With Lin Mingxiao's God King cultivation, he could tell that Lin Xingqian was the real Lin Xingqian. Yi Qianqi said, I'm afraid it has something to do with Uncle Lin's death back then. Lin Mingxiao looked at Lin Wanxian. What do you think? Lin Wanxian said seriously, Xingqian on the other side is Big Brother's son. I've confirmed his birthmark, so there's no mistake about it. Yi Qianqi transmitted her voice over. Leave it to Xingqian. We'll stop these enemies for him. Lin Mingxiao looked at Lin Shan with a complicated expression. If Big Brother's spirit in heaven knew that Xingqian was still alive, he would probably be able to rest in peace. In that battle, the Lin family had faced half of the divine realm's forces. Yi Qingwu had a smile that was not a smile. Realm Sea's Island Master, something is wrong with you. Zhao Jihu said with a naughty smile. Just 2 women. What can they do to me? The 9 sect masters under him immediately stood up. Yi Qianqi. Amen. But when Yi Qianqi removed her aura concealment and released a pressure that was not inferior to the Alchemist Guild's 3rd elder, the experts of the Realm Sea were completely stunned. Half-step God King. Such a young woman is actually a half-step God King. Everyone was shocked. Yi Qingwu covered her mouth and chuckled. Of all the people you can provoke, you have to provoke my big sister Qianqi. You deserve a beating. Yi Qianqi and Yi Qingwu moved. The 14 experts of the Realm Sea turned pale with fright. Chi! Bang! 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 Angry waves surged, stormy waves surged, and strong winds howled. The moment the divine power fluctuations of the 2 groups clashed, the world lost its color. The martial god mansion's 8 divine guards, led by Shun Lingshuang, became the second largest battlefield when they clashed with the 9 great heavenly ghosts. Between heaven and earth, there were only 2 people left. Lin Chun, Lin Xingchen. Lin Xingchen asked calmly, "You're not going to run?" Lin Chun said with a mocking smile, "Even if I run, you'll still chase after me, won't you? Moreover, do I need to run against someone like you?" Lin Xingchen said indifferently, very arrogant, "I'm looking forward to your strength being tougher than your mouth." Lin Chun said with a smile, "Those who have fought with me all know that I'm the toughest." All attribute light balls have been collected. At this time, all the illusionary doppelgangers turned into a flash of light and entered Lin Chen's body. The attribute light balls dropped by more than 20,000 fallen true gods were all collected and taken away. Apart from the growth attribute light balls that still needed to be refined, the rest could be used immediately. Host has high-grade set essence, 920,000 points. Beginning to continuously charge the Golden War God set 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%, 10%. When the illusionary doppelgangers returned to his body, the fighting spirit in Lin Chen's eyes increased by 30%. Thanks to the appearance of the God Kings, I managed to buy some time. It gave me a greater chance of victory. The golden light of the Golden War God set suddenly surged. Clang! Suddenly, there was a sharp sword howl. When Lin Xingchen attacked, a 5-color cloud light shot out like a cold light. The world instantly darkened, leaving only a speck of 5-colored cloud light. Chapter 2003. The moment Lin Xingchen attacked, Lin Chen's vision was instantly plunged into endless darkness. Heaven and earth turned dark? No, Lin Chen's senses were completely cut off. Only that 5-color cloud was the most dazzling, and it shot over at an extremely slow speed. It looked slow, but it was actually extremely fast. It was so fast that Lin Chen's divine soul senses couldn't keep up with the speed of his sword. That 5-color cloud was the sharpest tip of the sword. Aries set, power adjustment. Rumble. Layers of golden light flowed on the surface of the armor, and when it entered the armor, break. The Aries spear turned into a golden light, and Lin Chun swung the spear diagonally. Pure strength exploded, and close to 10 million desolate force was unleashed. The power that could move mountains and fill seas gathered at the tip of the spear, and the darkness was torn apart. Clang! Bang! The spear tip tore through the darkness and clashed with the sword tip. The moment the 5 large swords and Ares' spear clashed, a series of sparks exploded. Lin Xingchen thought to himself, "He actually broke my eternal night sword." His sudden attack was a peerless half-crimson grade sword technique. It was the strongest technique that could be learned by those below stage 8 of the divine realm. Red grade techniques could only be learned by those who had reached stage 8 of the divine realm and the divine body 3rd level. Red grade techniques were the stuff of legends, and even divine kings rarely saw them. For those below stage 8 of the divine realm, half-crimson grade techniques were the strongest. There were almost no humans who could master half-crimson grade techniques at stage 1 of the divine realm. Lin Chen's battle intent soared to the sky. There's no better chance than now to kill him. While the ultimate heaven-defying opponent still has more than half of the time left, I'll kill him now. I'd like to see how long this special armor of yours can last. With a flick of his wrist, the 5 large swords flashed, and Lin Chen's Aries spear was deflected away. After deflecting the spear, Lin Xingchen slashed horizontally with his sword, and 5-colored clouds rushed into the sky, and a sharp divine power surged out. Lin Chen stepped into the void, and when he retreated slightly, the golden light of the Aries spear suddenly condensed into a line, and he suddenly turned around and stabbed. Clang! Lin Xingchen's sword clashed, and when the spear and sword collided, he took a step into the void, his divine power surging out. In his eyes, boundless sword steels, sword realms, and sword aura storms appeared. They triggered the laws of the sword and began to pour into the swords, augmenting the arch swords. The divine light on the sword body trembled chaotically, and its sharpness was more than twice as strong as before. It was the law of the sword. Lin Xingqian had used his sword laws to deal with Lin Chun the moment they started fighting. A bright moon rose behind Lin Xingqian, slowly descending. 1,000 deaths in tomorrow night. He wielded his sword and stabbed out 1,000 times at a godly speed. Every sword strike contained the supreme light of the sword Tao, causing space to distort and air waves to howl. Zhu Tian. Lin Chun swung the spear with both hands. The golden light of the war god's spear flashed wildly, deflecting the sword lights like a tornado. Clang, 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 bang, bang, bang. The surface of the sea shook. The terrifying momentum was like a giant beast tearing the seabed apart, setting off hundreds of huge waves. His spear is getting heavier with each strike. I have to end this quickly. The sword arts executed by this 5 colors divine sword are getting sharper the more I use them. Sword intent and sword arts are fused, and with the divine sword controlling them, it seems like I have to use a blitzkrieg to create an opportunity. The two of them became more and more ferocious as they fought. As the spear and sword clashed, neither of them retreated. This was a life and death battle. Lin Chun had waited 13 years for this battle. Lin Xingqian had waited 130 years for this battle. Both of them yearned for a moment to end the other party, and both of them believed that now was the best time. After becoming a god, especially Lin Chun, who had tempered his body to become a god, his control of the Golden War God set had become more adept and compatible. When Lin Chun used the Golden War God set previously, he was unable to use any cultivation techniques or battle skills in most situations. But this time, he was able to use the myriad heavens, spear art skillfully. The theory was simple. It wasn't that the war god set prevented Lin Chun from using his cultivation techniques. It was that Lin Chun had used strength that exceeded the limit. Every time Lin Chun used the war god set against an enemy, it was basically when he was facing a powerful enemy who was close to the limit. In such a situation, Lin Chun was basically overdrawing the limits of his physical body. The pure strength of the war god set was like riding an extremely fierce and powerful dark horse. The greater the strength, the harder it was to control. Just controlling the direction of movement was extremely difficult, not to mention using other techniques. If the strength obtained was too great, just holding it and using it was already very difficult. Wanting to use other strength and techniques at the same time in such a state was almost impossible. But today, there was a very mysterious and coincidental opportunity, and that was the 9 heavenly ghosts. About half of the 9 of them were of the Azura bloodline, causing Lin Chen's 2 Azura's Bane divine sparks to shatter, temporarily increasing Lin Chen's pure strength and endless divine power. If not for the divine sparks of the Azura's Bane, Lin Chun would have to use the Golden War God set again to fight against Lin Xingqian. But now, that was no longer the case. Lin Chun still had room for improvement. In such a situation, the temporary increase brought by the divine sparks of the Azura's Bane was even stronger than the combination of God Defiance and God Slayer. Now was the best time for Lin Chun to get rid of Lin Xingqian. Clang! Rumble! Another clash. The spinning golden spear shadows collided with the endless sword light like a rain of swords, shaking the heavens and earth. The only ones who could split a bit of their consciousness to watch the battle were the 9 heavenly ghosts and the 8 divine guards of the martial god manor. Both sides couldn't help but be shocked. What kind of monstrous geniuses were these two? The battle between 2 first-tier divine realm experts was actually not inferior to an early-stage 9th-tier divine realm expert in a battle to the death. Those of a higher tier were geniuses, those of a higher tier were prodigies, and those of 2 tiers were divine prodigies. But these 2 people, not only were they of a higher tier, but they were also of a higher tier. They are really freaks. Crazy. This is too crazy. No wonder the Lin family is here. Could it be that Lin Xingqian has really come out? This is the first time I've seen such monstrous geniuses. If you say they're the #1 geniuses of the divine realm, I'll believe you. While both sides were still in shock, a sword light crossed the heavens, and a 5-colored sword rainbow slashed across the horizon. Bang! A golden ray was struck down and fell into the world sea, causing waves to surge. The one who was struck down was actually Lin Xin. Things were different now. Not only had Lin Xingqian broken through to the divine realm, but he had also achieved a perfect advancement with his bloodline as the #1 genius of the divine realm. His divine power had been tempered to an unprecedented level. In terms of desolate power, Lin Xingqian's divine power alone was comparable to 100,000 desolate power. His foundation was terrifyingly strong. Lin Xin's perfect advancement had given him 11,000 desolate power at first-tier divine realm, which was the limit of a mortal. With his mental cultivation method and talent, he had only reached 55,000 desolate power. As for Lin Xingqian, his divine power was comparable to 100,000 desolate power. It could be said that he had surpassed the limits of countless divine prodigies. In terms of divine power alone, Lin Xingqian was comparable to an early-stage 6-tier divine realm expert who had mastered multiple laws. Lin Xingqian's foundation far surpassed Lin Qian's. Chapter 2004. Lin Xingqian had such a strong foundation of divine power. His divine power was comparable to 100,000 desolates, which was equivalent to an early-stage stage 6 divine realm expert who controlled negative laws. Not to mention Lin Xingqian's foundation, mental cultivation techniques, battle techniques, and other trump cards. With such a strong foundation, he had the ability to control the 5 Emperor Swords. That's right, this peerless divine sword that even godly kings feared had long recognized Lin Xingqian as its master. If Lin Qian's trump card was the Golden Battle God set, then Lin Xingqian's trump card was the 5 Emperor Swords. When he had fought Lin Qian in the Saint's World, Lin Xingqian had not even been able to unleash a billionth of its power. He could only barely wield the sword. Now that he had become a god, he had begun to gradually control this peerless divine sword. He controlled a peerless divine sword that stood at the pinnacle of the divine realm, as well as the foundation and talent of being crowned as the #1 genius in the divine realm. Lin Xingqian's strength was unimaginable. Furthermore, this was only the beginning. The true talent of many god geniuses only began to show after they had become gods. Indeed, this monstrous young man is stronger. Different from borrowing that strange armor, this lad's talent and potential are the strongest I have ever seen. The difference may seem like a thin line, but it is actually huge. Lin Qian has no chance of turning the tables. Indeed, this lad is the real Lin Xingqian. While the godly kings were fighting, they would occasionally glance at the battle between the two. Lin Qian's disadvantage was within the godly king's expectations. Right now, Lin Qian did not seem to have any chance of turning the tables. At the very least, the godly kings and Lin Wanxian, who had absolute faith in Lin Qian, could not imagine the key to Lin Qian's victory. Your spear technique is getting stronger as the battle goes on, and so is my divine sword. After being struck by my divine sword, the laws of sword and sword intent entered your body. It must be very painful, right, Lin Qian? High up in the sky, Lin Xingqian flickered with extreme arrogance. The sword aura around him glowed, and when he wielded his sword, the laws of sword would flicker. A river of sword aura circled above his head, slicing through the void. Lin Qian was the first time Lin Xingqian had used the 5 Emperor Swords against an enemy after becoming a god. Following the continuous influx of Lin Xingqian's godly power, the seals on the 5 Emperor Swords gradually loosened, and the strength that they could display increased exponentially. However, this was a burden to Lin Xingqian as well. In a situation where the sword was too powerful, the sharpness of the sword was enough to injure its owner. As such, Lin Xingqian similarly could not afford to fight for too long. Lin Xingqian stepped on the illusory flowing light and used his movement technique. He wanted to take advantage of the situation to pursue and attack. Wen Yiqianqi, who was currently suppressing more than a dozen experts from Realm C, saw this scene. She finally couldn't help but want to take action. Yi Qingwu stopped her and smiled. "Don't worry. He's not the man who fell here. Trust him. Let's strip these guys clean first. He definitely needs their resources and items." This. Yi Qianqi hesitated. Just as Lin Xingqian was about to follow up with another attack, a wisp of the silver-robed woman's divine sense suddenly transmitted a voice transmission to Lin Xingqian's heart. "Xingqian, stop. Right side. TSK. Whoosh." Sonic booms rumbled and huge waves surged. Just as the silver-robed woman's voice fell, Lin Xun, who was wrapped in dark green divine wind, appeared like a ghost. Host used the ultimate wind god set. 4-piece wind god set charging, 100%. Host has sufficient divine power. Set characteristic, gift of the divine wind. 4-piece wind god set can increase all attributes at a maximum speed of 400 times. The moment he was within 10 zhang of Lin Xun, the corners of Lin Chen's bloodied mouth curled up slightly. The 4-piece wind god set that was wrapped in divine wind instantly disappeared. Host has switched to the golden war god set. Additional equipment, war god spear. With the activation of Ashura's nemesis godhead fragment, even if Lin Xin used up all his divine power to increase his speed, his divine power would be quickly replenished. In a 10,000th of a breath's time, a wisp of golden light appeared. Lin Xun grasped it with one hand, and the war god spear appeared once more. Lin Xun raised the war god spear high up and aimed it at Lin Xingqian's head before smashing it down. Zhu Tian, what? Lin Xingqian was shocked. What kind of perverse speed was this? It was similar to the law of wind, but it far surpassed the law of wind. Wong. The first to react wasn't Lin Xingqian, but the 5 the arch swords in his hands. Facing Lin Xun at such a close distance, Lin Xingqian raised his swords to defend himself. The swords were already 70% prepared. The tip of the spear smashed down violently on the 5 the arch swords above Lin Xingqian's head. Clang! The tip of the spear collided with the tip of the swords. 5 colored clouds flickered violently, and the 5 the arch swords trembled. Die! Caught off guard, Lin Xingqian was sent flying by Lin Chen's spear. Rumble! Bang! Lin Xingqian was smashed down and fell straight into the sea. From afar, it was as if a 5-colored aurora had suddenly fallen into the world's sea, shaking off thousands of waves. Poochie! On the shattered seabed reef, the sound of bones cracking could be heard from Lin Xingqian's body, and he suddenly vomited blood. His eyes were filled with rage and crazed hatred, as if he was a hunter who had been bitten by a wild beast. Lin Xun. Lin Xingqian stood up with his sword, and an even more intense killing intent appeared on his face. Consumed 6,390 God-tier Heaven's path points to continue using the immortal divine spark to heal the host's injuries. Lin Xin wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth and forced himself to endure the characteristics of the Sword Dao law in his body as he sneered. I, Lin Xun, can make countless mistakes. But you, Lin Xingqian, can only make one mistake. Just as he finished speaking, Host has broken through the enemy's defense, triggering the ultimate heaven-defying talent. The strongest orange-tier talent, ultimate heaven-defying talent. Effect: break through the enemy's defense, instant kill. Crack. The moment a crisp cracking sound rang out, Lin Xingqian's face was filled with disbelief. When he lowered his head to look at his arm, it was filled with cracks. His life force was fading away. His bloodline was weakening. His cultivation was dispersing. A chill that seeped into his soul surged, and Lin Xingqian's soul trembled. The senses in front of him gradually disappeared, and his vision turned dark. As if an absolute death sentence had descended, a trace of fear appeared in Lin Xingqian's heart for the first time. My life is actually shattering. How? How is this possible? This was not an injury, but a complete death. His life force was withering, turning into nothingness. Even the consciousness of his divine soul was completely shattered. The wave slapped Lin Xingqian into pieces, dropping a large number of attribute light balls and a dark green treasure chest. Only the 5 Emperor sword was left on the ground. This moment was extremely strange. All the experts present felt as if their throats were being squeezed by an invisible hand. The 8 divine guards of the martial god mansion narrowed their eyes. The experts of the realm, felt their scalps go numb. When the 9 heavenly ghosts saw this scene in the middle of the battle, the corners of their mouths trembled. Mother Kerr, wasn't this the exact same situation as when this kid killed 10,000 deities with a single spear strike? However, Lin Xingqian was clearly only injured, so why did he suddenly die? Could it be? Combining the reason why the experts of the realm and the 9 heavenly ghosts survived, they thought of an extremely terrifying possibility. The people who survived previously were all those who resisted Lin Chen's attack just now and did not show any injuries. His initial spear strike seemed to disperse the power precisely for the sake of large-scale damage. Could it be that when fighting with the current Lin Chen, one must not be injured, and being injured means death? All the experts felt their scalps go numb. If that was the case, this guy was too heaven-defying, right? He was only at the first level of the divine realm, and he already grasped such a trump card. Compared to this, what death law ranked in the top 1,000, cutting law, and even the shattering law ranked in the top 100 of the 3,000 great Tao. Compared to Lin Chen's move, they were simply not worth a mention. They all had to stand aside. Chapter 2005. The moment the 13 divine kings saw Lin Xingqian turn into fragments, their souls trembled. Even as strong as the divine kings, they had never seen or heard of such a method before. Xingqian has actually become so strong. I didn't think that I would be able to fight against such a genius and still have the upper hand. Lin Mingxiao and Lin Wanxian were shocked. While watching Lin Chen's battle, Yi Qinqi's eyes trembled. She even stopped fighting and quietly looked in Lin Chen's direction. As a first-rate fortune teller in the divine world, she couldn't understand the strange phenomenon in front of her. That is, Lin Chen's eyes lit up when he saw the green attribute light pillar appear in the space where Lin Xingqian had died. It's the extreme wind god Set's attribute treasure chest. Lin Chen took a step forward, intending to collect the attribute light orb. Suddenly, Yi Qinqi stared at the place where Lin Xingqian died, and her pupils shrank. Yi Qinqi suddenly shouted, "Not good. Lin Chen, don't go near." Lin Chen's figure paused. Clang! The 5-colored cloud suddenly flashed, and the 5 emperor swords slowly rose into the air. A red pendant hanging on the sword hilt was burning intensely and flashing crazily. The red pendant started to burn into a whirlpool. An unprecedented power of laws faintly leaked out. The red pendant burned with a wisp of divine soul consciousness, and a snow-white divine soul fragment appeared. The divine soul fragment turned into a graceful figure, and it turned into a woman in a silver dress, floating in the air. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. "It's you?" He had seen this woman in a silver dress once before. She was the woman who had issued the bounty at Zhao Jihu's place. He was Lin Chen, whom she had wanted in the Realm Sea. She was actually with Lin Xingqian. When a silver-dressed woman's divine soul fragment appeared, Lin Wanxian and Lin Mingxiao's attack stopped. The hearts of the 2 men were filled with a storm. It's her. Back then, when the 2 of them were still young, they had met her once. It was her who had brought hope to the Lin family. It was also her who had started the decline of the Lin family. The one and only divine-level fortune teller in the entire divine realm. The woman in the silver dress said calmly, "I didn't expect a vile spawn like you to be able to do this. However, how can a junior like you ruin my plans for 30,000 years?" Almost at the same time that the silver-dressed woman appeared, the crimson necklace violently trembled within the burning vortex. Lin Chen's pupils shrank. He could feel that a heaven-defying change was occurring in that space. He possessed the bloodline of the ancient Aeon dragons and was extremely sensitive to the flow and changes of time. The time of that space and time was actually reversing. Buzz! A crimson ray of light shot into the sky, transforming into a pillar of light that rose into the sky. The divine soul of the woman in the silver dress gently pointed at the void. Dazzling divine light blossomed from her fingertips and dripped into the scarlet vortex like dew. Yichinchi was shocked. Karma law, of the 3,000 great Taos, the 10 most difficult laws to comprehend and control were the most difficult laws to grasp. The laws of karma were ranked in the top 10. Everything had karma. The cycle of reincarnation did not end, and karma was endless. The karma planted by every life would flow into the long river of the law of karma. Comprehending the law of karma would allow one to influence or even change the fate and destiny of others. This was one of the highest realms of fortune-telling. Yichinchi said with a trembling voice, She is erasing Lin Xingqian's karma. Could it be? In Lin Chen's eyes, what he could sense from the crimson necklace was far more than just karma. There were other powers. Rumble. The crimson light pillar erupted with terrifying vitality. Time reversed. Energy and bloodline condensed once again, and the divine soul reconstructed and the divine body reformed. When the crimson light pillar slowly dissipated, a young man in snow-white clothes appeared. His golden eyes flickered with intense battle intent. He waved one hand, and the 5 arched swords emitted dragon roars and landed in his palm once again. Lin Xingqian had reappeared. Shunling Shuang's red lips opened slightly. This is cheating. I seem to have only seen Master use this kind of cheating method before. The scene was extremely strange. The experts of the Realm C and the people of the Martial God Mansion were completely shocked. They were no longer shocked. They were completely frightened. This was not some kind of divine soul possession, nor was it some kind of divine pill revival method. One had to know that Lin Xingqian had been completely destroyed just now. Not even a trace of his divine soul was left. In such a state, no matter how heaven-defying the method was, it was impossible to revive him. Only the 2 people from the Lin family knew that anything could happen in front of a divine-level fortune-teller. Lin Chen's mouth twitched. There's actually such a thing. Lin Xingqian is the one with the system, right? Lin Chen asked the system almost instinctively. You didn't give me a fake Terminator, right? System. I've been practicing the spear for 12 years. Please train your brain. Rumble. Suddenly, the layers of clouds in the sky were blasted apart. With Lin Xingqian as the center, stars shone brightly outside the 9 layers of clouds. Lin Xingqian's golden eyes emitted dazzling starlight, and a new power of laws appeared. At this moment, even the silver-dressed woman's divine soul was pleasantly surprised. She blushed and said with an intoxicated expression, Xingqian, you are indeed my greatest masterpiece. After coming back from the dead, you've awakened the divine bloodline talent. This bloodline is indeed the most suitable for you. Lin Chen's eyes narrowed. A new power of laws had appeared in his aura. Countless stars shone in the sky and were absorbed into Lin Xingqian's divine body, becoming indestructible. Lin Xingqian flew into the sky with his sword, refining the power of the stars and the heavens, attracting the wrath of the Milky Way. 3,000 great Tao astral laws. After the battle with Lin Shun, he was close to death. When he reached his limit, Lin Xingqian's resurrection had actually awakened his divine bloodline talent, allowing him to comprehend a second power of laws. His divine power foundation was comparable to the early stages of the divine realm, and the 6th stage of the divine realm was the beginning of controlling multiple powers of laws, surpassing the limits. Rumble. Lin Xingqian raised his sword, and the stars in the sky were absorbed into his sword Tao laws. With the divine sword, a 1,000-foot-long sword aura slashed out, and starlight shot out in all directions, sweeping across the sky. Lin Shen's war god spear spun, and the heavenly spear exploded with crimson light as it smashed toward Lin Xingchen. Chi! Bang! Lin Shan was blasted back a few hundred feet, and waves surged. The golden body of the war god that protected him trembled and was about to break. Lin Shen raised his sword and stepped into the air. Lin Xingchen smiled. Lin Shen, you have made me more complete. Lin Xingchen waved his sword and attacked. However, this time, it's your turn to die. I, Lin Shen, can come back from the dead, but you, Lin Shen, will die once. The sword aura invaded Lin Shen's body, and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, he smiled slightly, and his aura was overflowing. Is that so? Then let's see who can survive until the end. Lin Shen stepped into the void and met Lin Xingchen head-on. Lin Mingxiao and Lin Wanxian looked at Lin Shan with bated breaths. At the first stage of the divine realm, he had already grasped 2 powers of laws. This was the number 1 talent in the divine realm. How is he going to cross this mountain? Chapter 2006. Seeing Lin Xingchen's heaven-defying resurrection, the various deity kings were shocked. Their view of this battle was completely different from before. The battle between the two of them had already exceeded the standard of any genius they had seen before. That divine sword with the aura of a god emperor is becoming more and more powerful. Similarly, the divine spear that blocked the divine sword is even more strange. Even with my experience, I can't tell what grade it is. Where will victory lead to? And who is the real Lin Xingchen? The battle that everyone was paying attention to was about to end. Lin Xingchen's 5 dark swords had a limited time, and it was impossible for him to fight a protracted battle. As for the ultimate heaven-defying talent, how could Lin Shen not fight while it was still active? If Lin Xingchen escaped from this battle, it would be planting a seed of disaster for him in the future. Moreover, Lin Shen still had a trump card that he had never used before. After killing more than 20,000 true gods, he had obtained the best attributes of the set, which was enough to push his golden battle god set to new heights. Lin Xingchen, who had activated the power of the stars in the 9 heavens, had a layer of golden starlight revolving around him. It was as if he was surrounded by a ring of stars. The laws of stars could refine the power of the stars in the universe for his own use. It was indestructible. It could also mobilize the power of the stars' cores and turn it into the most ferocious attacks. After experiencing it personally, Lin Xingchen knew that the most important thing when fighting against Lin Shan was not to let him break through his defenses. With the laws of sword and the laws of stars, one was attacking and the other was defending. In a head-on battle, as long as Lin Shan was not injured, Lin Shan had no chance of winning. I want to see how Lin Shan will block the power of the 5 dark swords. Chi! Lin Xingchen charged forward with his sword, and with a raise of his hand, the laws of sword transformed into a snow-white sword light that was like a falling river of stars. It suddenly slashed towards Lin Chen's head. Heaven and earth instantly turned dark as 5-colored clouds lingered. It was another eternal night sword that cut off Lin Chen's senses and escape route. The sword light shot forward, leaving no way out. Lin Chen's fighting spirit soared wildly between his brows, and the blazing fire in his eyes seemed as if it could burn down the entire world. Taking a step in the air, Lin Shan waved his spear towards the sky. The tip of the spear exploded with a surging red light, directly colliding with the sword edge that was flickering with a 5-colored cloud light. Boom! The sword chi dispersed, and the golden radiance trembled. When the fierce wind stirred up the surface of the sea, both sides took 5 steps back at the same time. They were actually evenly matched. Lin Xingchen squinted his eyes. The more I use my 5 emperor swords, the stronger their sharpness. How did he receive my sword? Lin Shan waved his spear and retracted it. The tip of the war god's spear was burning with a scarlet flame that could burn the world. Lin Xingchen raised an eyebrow. The law of fire. Lin Shan said coolly, You're not the only one who grasps laws at the first-level deity realm. As long as he didn't use strength that exceeded the limits of his body, Lin Shun could use any cultivation technique or law with the golden battle god set. Scarlet flames flowed on the tip of the spear. Lin Shun, who was covered in the golden radiance of the war god, started to burn with a scarlet glow. His 5 fingers moved, and Lin Shen's war god spear rotated. When he held it in a reverse grip, he actually made a throwing stance. The next moment, he threw the war god spear, and pure strength suddenly erupted. The power of the golden battle god set began to gather in his right arm, and his pure strength surged with tens of millions of desolate power. Chi, the war god spear, which was shining with a scarlet golden radiance, streaked across the sky like a meteor. The tip of the spear burned with the law of fire that could burn the world as it attacked Lin Xingchen. What? Lin Xingchen was shocked. Even though he could sense the direction of the attack, he couldn't avoid it. The attack speed was too fast. Holding the 5 emperor swords tightly, the law of sword Dao flowed. Lin Xingchen faced the spear and slashed downwards. Clang! Boom! There was an explosion high in the sky. Boundless law of fire burned intensely, and scarlet radiance filled the sky. When the war god spear was sent flying, Lin Xingchen was pushed back for the first time. Lin Shun rushed forward like lightning and fire, trampling through the void. When he rushed into the roiling flames, his divine fists were like raging waves as they headed straight for Lin Xingchen. Lin Xingchen blocked with his sword, and the tip of his sword slashed at Lin Shun. Lin Shun used his divine fists to block, and the 5 emperor swords turned from slashing to stabbing. Lin Shen's armor shook, and the tip of the sword was flung away. He then punched back at Lin Xingchen. Bang! 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 The two of them fought fiercely, and Lin Shun closed in on Lin Xingchen in close combat. He used his golden body of the war god to block, and used his divine fists to block. They were evenly matched, and each of his fists was like a divine flame. When the 8 divine guards and 9 great heavenly ghosts fought, the battle between the two of them became more and more shocking. What tyrannical, pure strength! There seems to be a hint of the law of force. When Yi Qinshi saw that the situation wasn't right, she gave up on attacking the Realm Sea experts. The heavily injured Zhao Jihu and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. If this continues, Lin Shun will be in danger. Yi Qinshi's figure was graceful as she flew towards the battle between Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen like a rainbow of divine light. The silver-dressed woman's divine soul fragment appeared like a ghost, blocking in front of Yi Qinshi. She waved her hand. Heaven and Earth lock, 3,000 Dao integration. Wong! A large amount of silver spatial vortexes appeared, covering Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen, completely separating them from the battle and blocking Yi Qinshi. The silver-dressed woman said indifferently, "Although my main body is not here, this battle is not something you can disturb." Yi Qinshi's beautiful eyes narrowed. "You borrowed the laws of many divine attainment realm and changed karma. I don't believe that you won't pay a price." The silver-dressed woman looked down at her with disdain. "The 4th dimension is so big, and there are many things you haven't seen. The price of a mere divine soul and body is nothing. Then please enlighten me. Let me see the vastness of a fortune teller. A frog at the bottom of a well." Yi Qinshi punched out, and the 2 fortune tellers faced off. Ka! 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 Bam! In the instant that the golden fist collided with the 5-colored sword tip, Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen both retreated. The star ring shook, and the power of the laws of stars around Lin Xingchen's body fell off like fragments, showing signs of being burned. Lin Xingchen's eyes narrowed. "Is this your goal? To break my laws of stars?" "No." Lin Shen laughed, his arrogance overflowing in all directions. "What you want to see is something even more powerful. Expending 5,300 divine heavenly Dao points to activate the immortal divine personality. Note, the host has accumulated too many laws. If this is not resolved, the host's life will be in danger." Lin Shen's battle intent soared to the sky. He waved his hand in the air, and a golden light flashed under the sea. The war god's spear flew back like lightning and landed in Lin Shen's palm, expending high-grade set essence to recharge the golden war god set. Current charge, 32%. The war god spear in Lin Shen's hand suddenly shone with a golden light. Suddenly, Lin Xingqian's pupil shrank. The triangular tip of the war god spear transformed into a rhombus-shaped blade, and a golden divine will circled around the spear. The entire spear emitted a sharpness that caused space to tremble. Lin Xingqian even felt a piercing pain just by looking at it. It was as if even his divine soul could feel the sharpness that wanted to tear the dimension apart. It was clearly the same weapon, but it was completely different from before. Charging has reached the minimum requirement. Host has activated the Golden War God Set's supplementary equipment, War God Spear, second form. Holding the new War God Spear, Lin Shen's killing intense sword. I will kill anyone who stands in my way, even if they are number one in the divine world. Chapter 2007. As the golden halo of the war god's spear hung high in the sky, Lin Shen's divine aura continued to rise. 11 million desolates power, 12 million desolates power. Lin Shen's pure strength began to soar to the limit of what his flesh could withstand. Under the war god's set, his flesh was torn apart, and blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. Boundless golden divine radiance condensed on the spear like 1,000,000 feet of divine light. Even if I'm a number one in the realm of gods, I'll still kill anyone who stands in my way. Lin Shen raised the spear, and the space behind the vambrace distorted. Lin Shen violently threw the war god's spear. The divine spear pierced through the sky, and a beam of golden light crushed everything in its path as it headed straight for Lin Xingqian. This time, there was no support from the laws. There was only the pure strength of the war god set. He can still unleash such a powerful attack. Lin Xingqian's heart trembled, and he had no time to retreat. He gathered his divine power and quickly activated the sword Dao laws that he could use. With a swing of the 5 arch swords, 5 colored clouds lingered, and a river of sword aura spun like a sword wheel. The majestic sword Dao laws emitted a dazzling light. Lin Xingqian had used a half-red rank sword technique that was not inferior to the sword of eternal night. Kaboom! Bang! The divine spear was like a beam of light, and when it collided with the sword wheel formed by the sword Dao laws, the 5 arch sword's light trembled, and the sword wheel shattered. The golden halo of the war god shone brightly, destroying everything in its path. Lin Xingqian's flesh was torn apart, and his limbs flew everywhere. His eyes were filled with disbelief. The lady in the silver dress suddenly turned around and exclaimed, "This B** star has such a killer move." The host's attack has broken through the defense, triggering the ultimate heaven-defying innate skill. Defense broken, instant kill. The ultimate heaven-defying innate skill's duration is about to end. In the next moment, Lin Xingqian's body began to crack. Within the dense golden halo, Lin Xingqian's body and soul began to shatter. The fragments eventually turned into dust, and the 5 arch swords flew out. Lin Xingqian once again turned into a large number of attribute light balls, and this time, he dropped a black and white attribute treasure chest. He actually killed him again. What a monster! How many killer moves does this kid have? No wonder he could become Mrs. Master. I'm impressed. The 8 divine guards' mouths twitched. Shinling Shuang said excitedly, "Yay!" Lin Chun wobbled in the air as he unleashed his doppelganger. Lin Xingqian's doppelganger took away the attribute light orbs and the 2 most important attribute treasure chests that Lin Xingqian had dropped when he died. The host has obtained a divine equipment set treasure chest. Upon opening it, the host will obtain Extreme Wind God Set, Wind God Greaves. The attribute treasure chest that Lin Xingqian died from was indeed the God of Wind set. As such, Lin Xingqian's God of Wind set was still lacking one last piece. What surprised Lin Chun was that it was the attribute treasure chest that dropped from his second death. The host has obtained a divine equipment set treasure chest. Upon opening it, the host will obtain absolute defense, Atlas War God equipment set Atlas armor. Extreme, 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 however, the battle situation was constantly changing. Before Lin Chun could be surprised at the bountiful harvest this time, space began to violently distort. Bang! The 5 Darch swords knocked back one of Lin Chun extreme heaven's doppelgangers. In the space where Lin Xingqian was killed, time started to rewind. The red necklace on the sword hilt released a red whirlpool, and a pillar of light shot into the sky. Lin Xingqian's figure actually walked out of the pillar of light once more, as if it was being reborn. This time, the red necklace on the sword hilt gradually dimmed. Everyone's pupils shrank. He can revive. Lin Wanxian and Lin Mingxiao of the Lin family were shocked. This was the power of the number 1 fortune teller in the realm of the gods with the number 1 talent. The strongest talent paired with the strongest fortune teller. It was terrifyingly strong. Clang! The moment Lin Xingqian was resurrected, he had returned to his peak condition. His handsome and cold face was distorted, and the 5 Emperor swords returned to his hands again. The war god's spear returned to his palm. Lin Chen's expression was cold as he gripped the war god's spear tightly. This time, both of them stared at each other without saying a word. Their killing intent had reached an unprecedented peak. It was as if there was a strong intuition telling them that at the very last moment, rumble! The sword light was like a dragon's roar, and the power of the stars in the 9 heavens was absorbed into Lin Xingqian's palm. He held the sword with both hands and concentrated all the divine power in his body. The sword and star laws converged like 2 dragons and wrapped around the sword. The sharpness of the 5 Darch swords became stronger, and Lin Xingqian's wrist started to bleed. Unlike the previous time, Lin Xingqian gave up on defense. The law of stars and the law of sword that he had activated with all his divine power had actually been used to accumulate power for an attack. Lin Chun was clad in golden armor, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. The golden radiance of the war god was like a divine sun that never set, illuminating the 9 heavens. The war god's spear in his hand transformed into its second form, and Lin Chen's aura suddenly shook. The might of the war god was unstoppable, and it shook the universe. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The battle between the 9 heavenly ghosts and the 8 divine guards of the martial god mansion ended instantly. Sonic booms were heard, and the divine lights that were fighting suddenly stopped and retreated. Damn it, I'm really convinced. These two have gone completely crazy. Miss, retreat first. If they continue fighting, even we will be involved. After witnessing Lin Chen's instant spear kill, even the experts at the 9th level of the divine realm felt their hearts tremble. It could be said that they retreated to the side with fear and trepidation, especially the 8 divine guards, who took Shun Lingshuang away without saying a word. In the eyes of others, Lin Chun and Lin Xingqian had gone completely crazy. The two of them had fought to the point where they had lost their rationality and were only left with killing intent. Yi Qingwu was watching this scene. When Lin Chun met Lin Xingqian for the first time, she saw it too. I didn't expect Lin Chun to be so stubborn. Perhaps the two of them have sensed each other's fate and are determined to fight to the death. At that time, at that moment, it was exactly like this moment. Lin Chen's pure power soared again, and Lin Chun was already numb to the pain in his body. In his eyes, there was only killing intent towards Lin Xingqian. It was the same in his opponent's eyes. Bang! Divine radiance flashed, and the void was shattered. Boom! Starry sword radiance shook the 9 heavens. At this moment, Lin Chun and Lin Xingqian moved at the same time. Strange phenomena appeared on both sides. One side was filled with golden radiance, and the golden-armored figure raised his spear, and the spear broke through the heavens. The other side was filled with dazzling stars, and the figure in white robes slashed with his sword, destroying the world. The dusky second-layer realm C welcomed two resplendent new stars, colliding in advance. At this moment, history seemed to reveal a new scene. Chapter 2008. Not good. The silver-dressed lady's expression changed slightly. She couldn't be bothered with Yi Qinshi anymore and flashed away. When Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen unleashed their final and strongest attack, the wind and clouds rose, and heaven and earth changed drastically. The enchantment that the woman in the silver dress had set up had mysteriously crumbled. Almost at the same time, the silver-dressed lady instantly appeared beside Lin Shun. When she formed a seal, an old and withered palm seemed to cross time and space, reaching out and grabbing onto Lin Chen's shoulder. In the blink of an eye, the silver-dressed lady's hand formed a seal, and the scarlet pendant on Lin Xingchen's sword suddenly split open. A silver light descended from above their heads, and that old palm that grabbed onto Lin Chen's shoulder pulled back, shifting through the void. Whoosh! At this moment, Lin Shun and Lin Xingchen disappeared at the same time. The expressions of all the experts present changed slightly. The battles between the God Kings came to an abrupt end. Even those as strong as the 10 great God Kings, Wu Zhangtian, Lin Wanxian, and Lin Mingxiao, were shocked. That direction, to be able to shift through the void while carrying a person in the space of Realm C. Even I can't do that. Is it those old monsters in Realm C? No, they don't have that ability. Among the 10 great God Kings, the white-haired, red-eyed young God King seemed to have thought of something. His entire body trembled as he subconsciously muttered to himself. Could it be that Hao Futian's lineage? When Wu Zhangtian heard this, his brows raised. As the red-eyed God King spoke, the other 9 God Kings' faces turned slightly pale. They actually subconsciously circulated their laws to protect themselves. Lin Mingxiao and the other 2 reacted quickly. The moment Lin Qin disappeared, they immediately turned to look in the direction of the depths of the Second Realm Sea. Wu Zhangtian's gaze was deep. Could it be whoosh? At this moment, the 8 divine guards brought Shun Lingshuang back to Wu Zhangtian's side, ready to fight. Shun Lingshuang said anxiously, "Father, where's Master? Why did he suddenly disappear?" Wu Zhangtian looked into the distance and said, "He was taken away by a supreme expert. Then let's quickly chase after him." "We can't. Don't worry. He should be fine." Shun Lingshuang was confused. Is this supreme expert very powerful? Could it be that he's even more powerful than Grandpa? Wu Changtian stared into the distance with his deep eyes. Perhaps he's at the same level as your grandfather, but Wu Changtian suddenly changed the topic, but combat strength might not be the same. Shun Lingshuang said in surprise, "Father, didn't you say that Grandpa was invincible in the same realm back then? Could it be that the other party is stronger than Grandpa?" Wu Zhangtian's expression was unusually serious. Your grandfather is indeed unrivaled in his generation, but that might not necessarily be the case if you include the experts from the past. If the expert who makes a move is the student of the legendary Hao Fuqian, Shun Lingshuang was even more curious. Are Hao Fuqian's students very strong? How strong is he? Wu Changtian shook his head. Lass, it's not a matter of strength anymore. They are invincible in the 4th dimension. Outside the star continent, inside the two-world mountain, high up in the sky, a streak of silver light traveled through time and space and descended upon the two-world mountain. Lin Xingchen's silhouette flickered as he returned to the two-world mountain. The moment the silver-dressed woman's soul fragment returned to the two-world mountain, it suddenly shattered and dissipated. The moment Lin Xingchen was teleported back, his expression froze. Then, he flew into a rage. "What are you doing?" "Xingchen," the woman shouted coldly. The silver-dressed woman's main body flew over. Her expression was solemn and cold, interrupting Lin Xingchen's rage. Lin Xingchen gritted his teeth. "Master, if you hadn't interfered, I would have killed him with one strike just now." The silver-dressed woman said seriously, The twin Nirvana pendant I left for you has already been used up. Even if you could kill him, he could also kill you. However, if you were to die again, even my main body wouldn't be able to reverse the situation. Do you know how many of the 10 great laws the twin Nirvana pendant contains, and how precious it is? I spent a lot of resources and methods to refine it. I've already followed your will and given you a chance to fight him. He destroyed your twin Nirvana pendant twice. If you were to fight him with your last strike, you would definitely die. This is the result. You have to accept it no matter what. A trace of anger appeared on the silver-dressed woman's beautiful face. Master's patience is limited. I hope you won't take a mile after taking an inch. Lin Xingchen clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Then, the silver-dressed woman stroked Lin Xingchen's face. Her tone became gentler. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Your talent has only just begun to show after becoming a god. Now, as long as you focus on your cultivation, with Master's help, your cultivation speed will reach unprecedented heights in the god realm. Master has already prepared everything for you. In the future, when the right opportunity arises, I will let you enter the god realm and gradually take over the 3 god tribes. When that time comes, a small Lin Shun will not be able to escape from the palm of your hand. Lin Xingchen's fighting spirit and anger gradually subsided. He said in a low voice, "Xingchen will remember this." The silver-dressed woman smiled in satisfaction. Then, she said, "You mentioned the scarlet divine damask to me before. That Lin Chen has clues about it?" Lin Xingchen nodded. "Yes, he has at least one scarlet divine damask," the silver-dressed woman said in a low voice. "Then we will find an opportunity to kill him and take it back." Lin Xingchen frowned. "Master, what is the core secret of the scarlet divine damask?" The silver-dressed woman shook her head. "You don't need to know for now. You only need to know that secret. The 3 god tribes value it more than us. But to you, it is meaningless. Whether or not you have the secret sealed by the scarlet divine damask is not important to us. What we want is to destroy it, so you don't need to think about it anymore. It is useless to us." While the two were talking, a crack suddenly appeared on the silver-dressed woman's snow-white skin. It was a shocking sight. Lin Xingchen was surprised. "Master, this is—" The silver-dressed woman said casually, "Haha, a soul fragment is the price to pay for activating the law of karma. This body can no longer be used. It will have to be changed again. Remember, before you become a god king, Master can still create the twin nirvana to protect your life. After you become a god king, you will no longer be able to revive your life from today's battle. Reviving a true god and reviving a godly king were concepts as different as heaven and earth. So the next time you fight, don't rely on this thing." Lin Xingchen thought for a moment. "Thank you for your advice, Master. I will remember it." The silver-dressed woman smiled. "Next time, what do you want Master to become? A young girl, a married woman, or something else?" Lin Xingchen smiled knowingly. Realm C. Host has left combat state. Azura's Nemesis Divinity Fragment has been removed. Ultimate Heaven Defying Divinity Fragment has ended, entering a period of stagnation. The moment Lin Shan was dragged away from the battle, he was brought to a silver island. When his shoulder was grabbed, Lin Chen's battle instincts made him swing his spear behind him. When the war god spear was swung halfway, the old man raised his hand and stopped it. Lin Chen's war god spear did not move at all. Lin Chen's expression was solemn. The old man's laughter sounded. "Young man, this old man is a friend, not an enemy. Rather than being wary of this old man, why don't you worry about your terrible body first?" Chapter 2009. With the old man's reminder, Lin Chen snapped out of his frenzied state of battle. The corner of his mouth twitched as he sucked in a breath of cold air, nearly losing his balance. When he removed the golden war god set, Lin Chen was covered in blood. The sharp sword chi was about to pierce through his body as he sat on the ground. When Lin Chen checked his body's condition, the corner of his mouth twitched. This is... The old man stroked his beard and smiled. "If I hadn't intervened, You would have died even if you could have withstood that sword attack when you were fighting with that child. Although your golden armor has a strong defense, his sword Tao is all-pervasive. He has already broken through the realm of perfection and reached the realm of divinity. The sword Tao's characteristics have been accumulating in your body for a long time. If you had faced that sword attack head-on, the sword intent would have triggered the remaining sword Tao's characteristics in your body. No matter how strong your recovery ability is, the sword Tao's characteristics would have shredded you to pieces. As they chatted, the old man waved his hand. "Little Chun, give him a hand." A chubby white-clothed child flew over and hovered above Lin Chen's head. Then the white-clothed child opened his mouth and released a whirlpool-like suction force. Clang, clang, clang. Lin Chen's body erupted with terrifying sword chi. Streaks of sharp sword chi were drawn out of Lin Chen's body. Lin Chen, who was sitting on the ground, rolled his eyes and almost fainted from the pain. The pain was as if his bones were being forcefully pulled out of his flesh. It was so painful that it made one's scalp tingle. The white-clothed child opened his mouth and swallowed all the sword chi. He patted his stomach and smiled in satisfaction. What rich law energy. Not bad. The remnant characteristics of the law have been removed. 3,920 divine heavenly Tao points have been consumed, activating the immortal divinity to heal the host's injuries. Lin Chun collapsed on the ground, panting as he stared at the white-clothed child with his eyes wide open. The old man smiled. "Little Chun is a special divine artifact that I've bestowed with a trace of my divine soul. It's just a small matter for him to swallow this bit of law energy. There's no need to be surprised." Lin Chen got up with difficulty, cupped his fists, and said, "Many thanks to Senior for lending a hand. May I ask, Senior, the divine attainment that Senior mentioned just now? What is the realm of divine attainment?" Lin Chun felt that this old man's cultivation was unfathomable, far surpassing the people he had met before. The linen-clothed elder was shocked. "You don't even know this? Young people these days don't have enough knowledge." Lin Chen scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. "Senior, I'm a person who likes to learn about the opposite sex. I know very little about cultivation." The old man in the linen robe laughed and said, "The control of laws is also divided into realms. When you first control the laws at the peak of the fourth tier of the divine realm, you can only roughly attach the laws to divine weapons or cultivation techniques." The old man in the linen robe explained patiently. "And when you reach the fifth tier of the divine realm, you have to pursue the use of laws to advance to a higher level. It's called the realm of transformation. When you reach this realm, you can use the laws with a thought, and your own power of laws will be like waving your arms. Comprehending the laws, and then cultivating the laws. After cultivating the laws, there are three realms: transformation, divine, and heaven attainment. If the laws reach the heaven transformation realm, any one of the laws will be comparable to the existence of the heavenly Tao. It's the pinnacle of the laws that very few people can see. Comprehending the laws, transformation, divine, and heaven transformation that is comparable to the heavenly Tao." The corner of Lin Chen's mouth twitched. "In that case, the guy who fought with me just now comprehended the laws of sword at the first tier of the divine realm to the divine attainment realm." The old man in the linen robe smiled and said, "That's right. His talent is indeed superb. Not to mention how monstrous his bloodline is. Just his talent in the sword is the best I've seen. I really didn't expect you to be able to fight with him to such an extent." Lin Chun had a complicated expression on his face. Today, when he saw Yi Qinchi bringing Lin Wanxian and Lin Mingxiao over, and when Lin Wanxian insisted that Lin Chun, was there Xingqian, Lin Chun had already guessed it. In addition to the strong reaction of the birthmark on his body, there might be something on Lin Chen's body that should have belonged to him. Lin Chen's talent in the sword was already so monstrous, and he even had the number one talent in the divine realm. If he didn't get rid of him today, he would definitely become a great enemy for him, Lin Chun, in the future. Throwing away the thoughts in his mind, Lin Chun said seriously, "Then, Senior, Why did you save me?" The old man in the linen robe stroked his beard and smiled. "Young man, your Tai heaven concealing technique is not complete, right?" Lin Chen's mind went blank for a moment. He looked deeply at the old man and nodded. "That's indeed the case. Please enlighten me, senior." Rumble. A terrifying killing intent soared into the sky. The old man's killing intent suddenly soared, and he rushed toward Lin Chun with an aura that surpassed that of a divine king. Lin Chun was shocked. When he circulated his mental cultivation technique to resist, he actually found that he couldn't resist the old man's aura. Creak. Lin Chen's bones were squeezed out, and his body was bent. The old man in the linen robe seemed to be forcing him to kneel. This pure killing intent couldn't be wrong. This old man was serious. "You want me, Lin Chun, to kneel?" Lin Chun raised his eyebrows, and golden light burst out from his body. The golden battle god, Set, appeared again, and he suddenly stomped on the ground. Bang! 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 The ground cracked, and smoke billowed. Lin Chun stomped his feet and stood still. His back was straight, and he was unyielding. His will was as firm as a rock. "I don't care if you are a divine king or a divine master. If you want my life, Lin Chun, you'll have to lose a layer of skin." He clenched his fist, and the battle god's spear appeared again. Lin Chen's eyes were full of unyielding fighting spirit. He mobilized all his strength and prepared to fight to the death. The old man in the linen robe nodded in satisfaction, and his killing intent suddenly disappeared. Lin Chun was bewildered. He didn't remove the battle god set and looked at the old man warily. The old man in the linen robe smiled. "You pass." Lin Chun was puzzled. What was this? A test or a test? Lin Chun said in a low voice, "Senior, what is the meaning of this?" The old man in the linen robe turned and flicked his sleeve. The space opened, and a pitch-black stone door appeared. He said casually, "If you want the mental cultivation technique to be complete, follow me." Lin Chun hesitated for a moment before removing the golden battle god set and following the old man into the stone door. When he stepped through the stone door, the old man in the linen robe disappeared, but his voice echoed in the dark void. "Walk straight ahead." Lin Chun followed his instructions. He walked straight ahead in the dark void until he reached the end of the stone door. After leaving the stone door, Lin Chun arrived in front of a divine mountain. The dense fog was like a dragon, and there were many stone steels. Lin Chun saw an illusory figure standing in front of the stone steels of the divine mountain. The old man was dressed in a long green robe. His eyebrows were like swords, and his expression was calm. At this moment, Lin Chun was stunned on the spot. An indescribable shock emerged in his heart. The old man in the green robe walked into the distance. In the direction he was walking, a bright ray of light rose from the east, illuminating the dark world. Many figures began to follow him around. More and more people followed him. A strong wind suddenly blew. The wind was like a song, and the sun rose. The boiling hot blood created beautiful mountains and rivers. Wherever they walked, a scarlet fire was ignited. The fire drove away all the darkness. The invasion of the otherworldly demons couldn't crush their backs. The ferocious Shura couldn't match their sharpness. The three powerful divine clans with deep roots were crushed by them. It was like a mythical historical picture that passed through the silent time and space and appeared in front of Lin Chen's eyes. In that era, no demon dared to offend the might of the human race. In the end, he walked very far, very far. Lin Chun subconsciously rushed forward, wanting to follow his figure. The illusion shattered upon contact, and all the scenes disappeared. Only the 5 cultivation technique scrolls were left floating in the void. Chapter 2010. The old man in hemp robes slowly walked over to Lin Chen's side, smiling indifferently. "Have you met teacher?" Lin Chen recovered from his shock. "Senior, was that Senior Hao Futian's soul will?" The elder shook his head. That's just an insignificant fragment of Master's soul. It can't even be considered as his soul will. He has already left us forever. However, every time a young person who cultivates the same mental cultivation technique enters here, his soul will occasionally reappear. The elder looked into the distance with a complicated expression. You are already the 23rd young person who has entered here. I don't know where those who have left have gone. Then, the elder waved his hand, and 5 scrolls floated in front of Lin Chun. The 5 scrolls floating in the air didn't have any earth-shattering aura, nor did they have any auspicious signs. There's only a faint glow that protected the contents of the scrolls from being eroded by time. Lin Chun received the 5 crimson booklets. On them, there were 5 large words, Tai Heaven Concealing Technique. From the 1st to the 5th scrolls, it was complete. When he sensed that there was no seal of primordial spirit or soul within the scrolls, Lin Chen's eyes narrowed. He was extremely shocked. It's actually a technique that is recorded in ink. The 7 levels of the technique were yellow, green, blue, purple, orange, and red. Techniques of the green level and above were extremely difficult to cultivate if they were recorded in ink. The complexity of a high-grade cultivation method basically required the use of spiritual power to record a large number of precise cultivation points. If they were recorded in ink, it would be an unimaginable amount of content. But these 5 scrolls of the Tai Futian technique, which were crowned as red-level techniques, were actually recorded in ink. Such a powerful technique was self-created by Hao Futian with his Sage King cultivation and passed down in ink. What kind of amazing talent was that? As if seeing through his shock, the elder smiled. The red-level technique that Master created himself, the Tai Futian technique, has no requirements to cultivate. From the 3-dimensional human race to the gods of the divine world, as long as a human wants to learn, they can cultivate it. This is the only one in the universe. The teacher's thoughts were the strongest mental cultivation method. He didn't hesitate to hand it over to the humans. Lin Chen's heart was once again shaken by this awe-inspiring heroism. All crimson martial arts, be it battle skills or mental cultivation methods, required one to be at least at the 8th level of the divine realm and Tao integration stage before they could cultivate them. The Tai Futian mantra was such a powerful crimson mantra that even humans who had yet to become gods could cultivate it. Lin Chen exclaimed, "Why do you have to go to this extent?" The hemp-robed old man stood with his hands behind his back as he recalled the past. He revealed an undying heroic spirit as he spoke in a stern voice. To change the world. He looked towards Lin Chun, his gaze deep as he said, "Junior Lin Chun, you've already experienced Realm C's present cruelty. And what this old man wants to tell you is that in the previous era, the human race in the divine realm was everywhere. It was a cruel world 10 times more severe than the 9 Realm C. The human race at that time, after the era of Emperor Qin, had stepped into the darkest era. Outside, there was the invasion of the devil race. Inside, there were the 3 divine races. The strongest, the Azura race, was even eyeing the human race's territory covetously. Teacher came from the 3-dimensional universe and saw this era. In order to find a way to break the status quo, he embarked on the journey at a young age to teach us and follow him. The hemp-robed old man's expression glowed with the spirit of the past. Teacher was the first person in the human race's 50 million eras of the divine realm. He wasn't stingy with his wisdom and gave it all to the humans. Lin Chen listened with fascination. When he received the 5 scrolls of mental cultivation methods, he didn't even cultivate them immediately. Lin Chen asked, "Senior, since Senior Hao Futian is called Futian Emperor, he must have reached the cultivation of a divine emperor. The lifespan of a divine emperor can last for 100,000 years, even in the divine realm. Why'd he leave us now?" The hemp-robed old man took a deep look at Lin Chun, his voice trembling slightly as he said, "That has to be traced back to the last battle. That battle changed everything for the human race. But it also seems that nothing has changed. You don't need to ask about the cause and effect. Use your legs to walk once, use your eyes to see once, and use your heart to feel once more. Lin Shen silently repeated the words of the old man in the sackcloth in his heart, silently memorizing them. When Lin Shen looked at the stone tablets on the divine mountain again, the light shone brightly, and there was no longer any haze around the divine mountain. Lin Shen walked to the front of the divine mountain and asked, "Senior, these are..." The hemp-robed old man looked at the divine mountain from afar with a complicated gaze. He said, "Every stone tablet once represented the will of a divine general or a student. Everyone's mental cultivation methods are connected. The Tai space connected their wills and left their inner voices behind. Then, I transferred them here to remember." Lin Shen's heart trembled. He looked at the divine mountain, the vast number of stone tablets towering into the clouds. There were more than 100,000 of them. There were millions of them. "Senior, can I stay here for a while longer?" "Why?" "I want to read all of their words." The hemp-robed old man seemed surprised by Lin Shen's decision. The old man said seriously, "Are you sure? It might take several years to read all of these tablets." Lin Shen said, "It's fine, I don't lack these few years. I'll have to trouble Senior to help me say hello to my friends outside. I want to cultivate in seclusion here. See you after I come out." Hearing Lin Shen's decision, the hemp-robed old man revealed an unprecedentedly gratified smile. He looked at Lin Shen with even more admiration. "Don't worry, I'll answer to the outside world for you." After the hemp-robed old man left, Lin Shen stepped onto the divine mountain. His eyes were fixed on every stone tablet that stood there for a long time. Lin Shen reached out to touch each inscription. That magnificent history seemed to reappear before his eyes. Will the people of the future still remember us? What will the new era be like? I really want to drink another bowl of wine from my hometown. This battle we won't leave. Since the beginning of time, our race's fate has been to not believe in fate. There's nothing left to lose. The only thing left is this hot blood, this iron-blooded determination. Even if we fight for 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, we will still not die. Prosper. All living beings suffer. Die. All living beings suffer. If that's the case, we must create an era where all living beings don't suffer, where humanity is united. The hell we've experienced, let's not let the future generations experience it again. If the future generations forget why we're fighting, then wouldn't all of our blood have been shed in vain? 40 years passed in the blink of an eye, looking at the spring breeze of the world from afar, asking the vast land who will rise and fall. Why are there always tears in everyone's eyes? Because we love this land so deeply. This time, we'll go to the spring terrace to recruit our old subordinates, banners and banners, to slay the king of hell. The Grand Pass is as hard as iron, but now we'll cross it from the beginning. After they leave, we'll be them. This is an unimaginable path. Whether or not the end is still there, we'll leave it to the future generations to answer. Lin Shen walked up the divine mountain and observed the will of that era from afar. When Lin Shen regained his senses, his eyes were already filled with tears. This is history. Chapter 2011. When the realm sea ignited a wisp of fire above the distant 5 great continents. This place was the divine realm. The star palace was filled with countless stars, and there were countless magnificent sceneries. The prosperity of the world was inexhaustible. This scenery should have filled the entire divine realm, but now it belonged to the divine realm. Rivers of stars intersected. The divine palace hung in the sky, the stars hanging upside down, close at hand, but actually far at the horizon. The light that could be seen now was the light emitted by the stars that died millions and millions of years ago. The divine realm's scenery was unique. The peak of the divine realm that ruled over the 5 great continents. Other than a small portion of the 5 great continents' forces, very few could compare to the divine realm's forces. The famous families of the divine realm, Every one of them was a giant existence deeply rooted in the divine realm. Somewhere in the west of the divine realm, in a glorious hall. Today, an extremely lively banquet was being held here. Another force had achieved many great feats, divine kings rising in succession. Their momentum was like a rainbow, as if they had the help of the gods, obtaining the qualifications to enter the divine realm. The gods of the 5 great continents were envious, all coming to congratulate them. Brother Nangong, congratulations. We haven't seen each other for many years. I didn't expect to receive your Nangong family's invitation to enter the divine realm as soon as I came out of seclusion. Truly, endless light shines through the door, destiny covering the heavens, the only one. When destiny comes, it can't be stopped. Even a pig can fly when standing on the wind. Oh no, Brother Nangong. I'm not saying you're a pig. I'm just expressing my endless admiration and reverence for all of you. The experts of the Nangong family that had just entered the divine realm beamed with joy, their joy evident in their words. The Nangong family's manager stood on the high platform, giving an impassioned speech. Those who heard it were inspired. Those who heard it were overwhelmed with emotion. It was as if they had worked hard to finally break through the social hierarchy, seeing new hope and walking toward a new path. After this, their Nangong family would truly be a great family of the divine realm. However, behind the Nangong family's hall, a star palace floated in the distant horizon. Inside the star palace, more than a dozen people sat, their auras as deep as the sea, unfathomable. Every single one of them had an extraordinary bearing, aura, and arrogance. When they opened and closed their eyes, there was the birth and destruction of the laws, and the space between their brows was filled with the arrogance of looking down on all living beings. They were part of the divine descendants of the 3 great divine races. If the divine realm was said to be the pinnacle of the divine realm, then the 3 great god clans were the rulers of the divine realm. All of the demigods present were looking through the void with the power of laws, gazing at the hall where the feast was being held in the distance. Everyone present looked at the hall with either a mocking or amused gaze. It was as if they were watching a good show. Among them, a red-haired, green-eyed youth was leaning on a jade chair while beauties massaged his shoulders and legs. He shook the golden goblet in his hand. The bright red divine wine inside the golden goblet gave off a pure fragrance. The fragrance permeated the air, and even the energy in the air seemed to have been nourished. He said casually, "This divine wine is produced in a dangerous place in the divine continent. Just the process of collecting it alone has killed 10 7th-tier divine realm experts and 2 8th-tier divine realm experts." A golden-haired man beside him raised his goblet and drank. After tasting it carefully, he smiled and said, "It's not bad. The price of a true god's death is the best decoration for the divine wine." A woman dressed in a luxurious snow dress was beautiful. Her snow-white neck was like jade, and her beautiful eyes flickered. Her skin was whiter than snow, and she was a national beauty. Hearing this, the woman in the snow dress laughed. "Your hobbies are really strange. I'm going to be led astray by you." The golden-haired man laughed. "It's okay to be led astray. Just don't break it." The woman in the snow dress rolled her eyes at him charmingly, charming to the bone. When they passed through the void with the power of laws, they landed in the Nangong Hall that was as busy as a marketplace. Everyone's amused expression became more and more intense. The red-haired youth smiled casually. "They're laughing so happily." Everyone looked at each other and smiled. The woman in the snow dress giggled. "Look at them. They've finally become members of the divine realm. So hardworking." The red-haired youth smiled casually. "That's right. Why do so many people like the divine realm?" The golden-haired man smiled playfully. "Because the divine realm has resources and money." The woman in the snow dress rested her chin on her hand and said, "That's right. But what if outsiders come to the divine realm to earn money and want to take it away?" The golden-haired man drew a circle in the air with his finger and smiled. "They can't take it away. The controlled resources only circulate in the divine realm. The price of all the resources is too high, so they can only obtain them in the divine realm. The red-haired youth looked up and smiled. The divine realm earns money and spends it. The resources flow back to the divine realm. Everyone looked at each other and smiled. They raised their cups and clinked. This is called a circle. They laughed without restraint. Then, the woman in the snow dress smiled charmingly. But what if they only use the resources for themselves and cultivate to become stronger? Tapping the table with his fingertips, the red-haired youth smiled. That's fine. If they want to break through, it means that they want to go further. The golden-haired man snapped his fingers. Greed knows no bounds. After going further, they'll want to go even further. Looking at the lively feast, the red-haired youth smiled playfully. And joining us is the path to go further. Just like how they're happy at this moment. More than a dozen people looked at each other and laughed. So in order to go further, in the end, they'll join us. From the beginning to the end, they'll become our things and a part of us. They'll get it from the divine realm. In the end, they'll all become ours. When the conversation reached a climax, everyone raised their cups and clinked again. They spoke in unison. This is called a pattern. The laughter was endless. The woman in the snow dress covered her mouth and chuckled. If someone wants to resist, how do we put the most stable shackles on them? The golden-haired man smiled confidently. The shackles on the body can only bind them for a while, but the shackles on the consciousness can imprison them for a lifetime. The woman in the snow dress asked curiously, "Oh, how do you know?" The golden-haired man continued, "Paint the shackles golden and name them divine achievements. Cast more shackles named divine achievements. Mold those who join us later as role models, label them as role models, and put these golden shackles on them. Let those lowly slaves underground look up to us, and want to become us. They'll fight, belittle each other, and work hard to climb up." The red-haired youth smiled. You'll see them kneeling on the ground and belittling each other. Even when they help their own kind, they'll be laughed at by each other. How funny, how hilarious. The woman in the snow dress smiled charmingly. It sounds interesting, doesn't it? The golden-haired man smiled playfully. "Miss you, you're more interesting. Good slaves are said to be hardworking." Hardworking? What's that? Slaves who kneel on the ground. Ha ha. Owl-like laughter came from the star palace of the divine realm, as if it would never change. Everyone laughed and clinked their cups again. This is called history. Chapter 2012. Second Realm Sea, a group of submerged reefs. Marshal Godmanner and the others were flying through the air. Wu Chantian shook his head and said with a smile, "The 10 deity kings have cultivated for so many years, their guts have all gone to waste. Just a little wind, and they are already running away. How fast?" The 9 heavenly ghosts were also fast. Only Zhao Jihu and the other Realm Sea experts were left in the Second Realm Sea. Yi Qinshi cupped her hands and said, "Your Excellency Wu Chantian, thank you for your help this time." Wu Chantian waved his hand. "You're welcome." "But this Lin Chun," Shenling Shuang mumbled, "Master is so slow. I wanted him to see the results of my cultivation." The little fairy Yi Qing Wu teased, "Maybe he's more interested in the results of your growth." Shenling Shuang was startled. Then, she proudly puffed out her chest. "Of course, I'm not younger than you now." Wu Chantian said, "Miss, please don't teach my daughter strange knowledge." The little fairy stuck out her tongue. Lin Mingxiao and Lin Wanxian were worried. Suddenly, a wisp of divine soul appeared. Everyone's expression froze. The old man in sackcloth appeared. The 3 divine kings' expressions were very interesting. The old man smiled. "Marshal Godmanner and Lin family? I haven't seen you for a long time. How are you?" Seeing that the old man's bottomless strength was still so approachable, the 3 divine kings hesitated for a moment. Then, they cupped their hands and greeted him. "Greetings, senior." The hemp-robed old man said, That little friend called Lin Chen still needs some time to go into seclusion. When he finishes his seclusion, he will naturally come out and take action. This old man will inform everyone on his behalf that there is no need to worry. Xinling Shuang said anxiously, Master is going into seclusion? How long will that take? I finally met Master and helped him take down a group of First Realm Island Masters. I don't want him to run away again. The 8 Divine Guards. Miss, you don't sound like you're looking for Master. You sound more like you're looking for your husband with dowry. Wu Changtian said, No one will think you're mute if you don't talk. Ha 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 ha. The hemp-clothed old man laughed heartily. Little girl, you have the bloodline of the war god. Train well. The path your master will walk in the future is very difficult. What he lacks the most is people who can fight. Xunling Shuang had a rare, serious look on her face. I'm very good at fighting. The old man shook his head. Not enough. When I was at your level, I was already able to defeat your father. Ask yourself, how big is the gap between you and your father? Xunling Shuang's mouth opened slightly. Wu Changtian patted his daughter's shoulder and sighed. Lass, you can't compare with them. People and their physiques can't be lumped together. The hemp-robed old man smiled but didn't say anything. He watched everything silently. After Wu Changtian warned again and again, he left with 4 of the 8 Divine Guards, leaving behind Xunling Shuang, the 4 Divine Guards, and Yi Qinwu. Xunling Shuang asked curiously, Old Senior, do you want to go with us? The hemp-robed old man smiled and said, I've already gone into seclusion and don't plan to come out. Go ahead. It's the world of you youngsters now. After saying that, the hemp-robed old man's figure turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared. Yi Qinwu pulled Xunling Shuang and smiled slyly. Let's go. We'll hunt to our heart's content today. Spring went and autumn came. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Under the heavy snow, a brilliant divine light suddenly rose from the bottom of the sacred mountain. The powerful aura was like an overturning river and sea, like the birth of a mad dragon, breaking through the bottleneck and stepping into the next realm. After thoroughly refining all the attribute points he had gained from the previous battle, Lin Shun had finally advanced a step further. Sitting under the sacred mountain, Lin Shun, who was sitting cross-legged, a new message appeared in his mind. Consume 10 million divine heaven's path points, 100 million divine technique soul essences, 10 million saint enhancement points, 10 million divine talent points. Heavenly Path Attribute Gathering System Version 9. 0 update completed. Heavenly Path Attribute Gathering System Version 9. 0 unlocked talent upper limit. Crimson talent. Set evolution function. The original characteristics of the set will not change, but additional evolution effect will be added. When the host has collected all the set and charged it to 100%, it will remain unchanged and will no longer consume the set's original charge. There is no need to replenish the set's essence attribute. For example, when the Golden War God set is charged to 100%, the host will no longer consume the War God set's energy when using it. The host can use it based on the host's original cultivation and physical condition. The host's real-time cultivation will determine the final strength of the set. Chapter 2013. Heavenly Way Attribute Picking System Version 9.0. Host, Lin Shun. Cultivation, Early Second Tier of the Divine Realm, Divine Essence, 29. 8 billion points. Ultimate Power, 1,435 Desolate Force. Flesh Shell Awakening plus 600%. Divine Blood, 12 billion points. Divine Spiritual Power, 99. 4 million points. Early Divine Soul Realm. Divine Cultivation Technique Soul Essence, 63. 78 million. Divine Rune Energy, 28. 99 million points. Divine Heavenly Path Points, 1. 0.9 million points. Divine Talent Points, 2. 0.5 million. High-grade Set Essence, 1. 3 million points. Saint level strengthening points, 38 billion points. Divine attributes, Fire 1. 1 billion, Earth 13. 14 million, Wood 16. 15 million, Metal 11. 13 million, Water 22. 25 million, Lightning 15. 28 million, Wind 17. 61 million, Light 15. 25 million, Darkness 15. 52 million. Set column, Ultimate Golden War God set, recharge 41%. Ultimate Wind God set, bracers, greaves, wings of the wind, fully charged, 100%. Atlas War God set, armor recharge 100%. Talent column, usable in 4 dimensions, extreme God possession, instant light clone, God slayer, God defying, ultimate heaven defying. Special attribute treasure, red rank cultivation technique fragment, 3/4. Divine spark column, divine elephant, divine spark, undying divine spark, divine spark fragment, 5/6. Azura nemesis divine spark fragment, 2/6. Lin Shun had stepped into the second tier of the divine realm. More than 20,000 true gods, in addition to the attribute points he had obtained from the battle with Lin Xingchen. Not only had he fulfilled the requirements to update the system, but he had also skipped 3 small realms, mid-stage, late-stage, and full-fledged, to step into early-stage level 2. Lin Shin activated his mental cultivation technique, and a blazing divine power appeared in his palm. Lin Shin thought to himself, my basic divine power has increased from 11,000 desolate force to 22,000 desolate force. The more solid my foundation is, the harder it is to go up. For an ordinary person, the increase in divine power from the first to the second tier of the divine realm was less than a dozen desolate force. However, Lin Chen's increase from the first to the second tier of the divine realm was over 10,000. Such a foundation was terrifying. Lin Shun clenched his fists, his eyes deep. It's not enough. In half a year's time, Lin Shin studied the first 4 volumes of the mental cultivation technique. It wasn't that he didn't learn it, but that these 4 scrolls were the original copies. Indeed, there was no requirement to cultivate the Fu Tian scripture. Anyone could cultivate it. However, the first 3 scrolls were just beginners. After cultivating it, the cultivator would have the Tai space, and their holy power or divine power would be doubled. If he wanted to reach the crimson level, he would have to cultivate all of them. According to the old man, this method was set up to prevent outsiders from using his mental cultivation method to nurture a large number of enemies. Therefore, even if the Tai Futian technique fell into the enemy's hands, he wasn't afraid. Only those who truly needed it would be able to display the light that belonged to it. Flipping open a red booklet, Lin Shun officially opened the 5th volume of the Tai Fu Tian technique. Matter and time are ever-changing. Cultivation methods and combat skills shouldn't be the same. They should evolve with the times. It was as if Lin Shun had opened the door to a new world. He was immersed in cultivating the 5th volume of the Tai Fu Tian mantra. The concept of Fu Tian Emperor Hao Fuqian's cultivation technique was completely different from the cultivation techniques Lin Shun had come into contact with. The cultivation techniques Lin Shun had cultivated in the past were all the same. However, the Fu Tian technique actually focused on real-time pursuit of matter and evolution. Only by evolving in response to the current situation could the cultivator create the most suitable Tai Fu Tian technique for himself, rather than saying that the Tai Fu Tian technique was a mental cultivation method. Rather, it was an idea to create a mental cultivation method. Therefore, people who cultivated the same Tai Fu Tian technique would have different effects due to different people cultivating it. Then, what did Lin Shin's Tai Fu Tian technique look like? When he closed the 5th volume again, Lin Shin's divine body was filled with strange phenomena and divine power. Red clouds that looked like dancing dragons surrounded Lin Shin. The divine light merged with the Tao. It was as if there were 10,000 flames roaring in the sky, and the great Tao trembled. The old man in the distance opened his eyes and exclaimed, "He actually learned the 5th volume so quickly." It seems like this kid is almost perfectly compatible with the mental cultivation method that Lauscher created. Buzz. In Lin Chen's Tai space, the fire was bright, and a wisp of red fire burned brighter and brighter. In the Tai space, there was not only Lin Chen's cultivation, but also Lin Chen's divine soul. His divine soul and divine power cultivation were both enhanced by the Tai space. And most importantly, divine soul, divine power, these two powers revolve around the most powerful flame in the Tai space. It was Lin Chen's law of fire. The appearance of the law in the Tai space meant that Lin Chen's law could also be enhanced by the mental cultivation method. Circulating the mental cultivation method, he urged the law of fire to condense at his fingertip. Lin Chen raised his finger and drew in the air. Qi, a red light that looked like auspicious clouds, streaked across the sky. The fire was blazing and surging endlessly. It burned until the space of the realm sea distorted. This law of fire was actually 4 times stronger than before. The mental cultivation method and talent increased the effect by 4 times. When Lin Chen cultivated the 3rd volume of the Tai space technique, he created the Tai space and had the cultivation of his main body. In the 4th volume, the Tai space had the essence, spirit, and divine soul of his main body. In the 5th volume, the Tai space had all the laws that his main body had. A qualitative leap. This is my Tai heaven concealing technique. Lin Chen was shocked. Host has successfully cultivated the 5th volume of the Tai space technique and perfectly deduced his own mental cultivation method. Mental cultivation method, Tai space technique. Grade, Crimson. Host's mental cultivation method is complete and can be strengthened at any time. When a mental cultivation method was activated and all kinds of phenomena were absorbed into his body, Lin Chen's eyes seemed to flicker with red flames. Senior Hao Futian's thoughts are the strongest cultivation method. Looking in the direction he left, Lin Chen sighed in his heart. It's really a pity that I couldn't see you with my own eyes. Lin Chen got up and headed to the next divine mountain. He wanted to remember all the wills that were left behind under the divine mountains. Time passed. It had already been 1.5 years since the encirclement battle in the Realm Sea. During this 1.5 years, new forces seemed to faintly appear in the first layer of the Realm Sea. Moreover, a group that struck fear in the heart appeared in the Realm Sea. There were 2 great demonesses who swept through all the forces in the Realm Sea. It could be said that they swept through many forces in the Realm Sea. And on the other side of the Star Continent, a major event happened 1/2 year ago, and that was the Star Continent Divine Assembly's expedition to the Realm Sea. This time, more than 200 world-shocking geniuses who achieved divine achievements entered the 2nd layer of the Realm Sea. Moreover, because of the increase in the quota, other geniuses were also allowed to participate. Moreover, after many fierce battles, many forces in the Realm Sea were defeated one after another. The divine geniuses' momentum was magnificent. The divine geniuses had an invincible momentum in the 2nd layer of the Realm Sea. After 1/2 year, after obtaining many secret realms results, they were advancing towards their final goal. Chapter 2014. On an island with waning lights. There were many figures sleeping on the streets. It was hard to imagine that this was a scene one could see in Realm Sea, that they could rest without any defenses. Gathered here were quite a few people who were suppressed in Realm Sea. They were all sent over by the 2 great female devils when they were sweeping through the forces in Realm Sea. And the one leading them was Shangguan Yun, who was standing valiantly on the peak of the mountain. Seeing the increasing number of people, she couldn't help but facepalm. If you still didn't come back, I would have had to bring them out of the Realm Sea. 2nd Realm Sea. On top of the misty snow mountain, a graceful figure nodded slightly in greeting. Thank you for your guidance this past year. The old man waved his hand. You're from Lone Heaven Divine Nation. You're the descendant of my comrade. I'm just giving you some pointers. Your aptitude is not bad to begin with. In addition, you have the Law Dao seed that the ancestors of your divine nation passed into your bloodline. If you cultivate well, your future might not be worse than that kid's. The person that the old man in sackcloth was pointing at was Zhao Anren, who had recovered from his injuries. Benefiting from his guidance, Zhao Anren's cultivation could be said to have improved at a godly speed. He was already faintly showing signs of reaching the great circle of the 8th level of the divine realm. He was only one step away from the Dao integration stage. Speaking of him, Zhao Anren asked worriedly, "Senior, is he not done yet? There are already rumors in the outside world that they are preparing to capture him." The hemp-robed old man looked into the distance and smiled meaningfully. "Soon, in a few days, he will come out of seclusion. This old man doesn't have much time left. The rest is up to you youngsters." The old man stared at Zhao Anren and said seriously, "Teacher once said that the world is yours, and it is also ours. But in the end, it is yours. You young people are like the sun at dawn. Hope is placed on you." Zhao Anren said sternly, "Senior, don't worry. As long as I, Zhao Anren, still have a breath left, I won't let anyone touch Lin Chen's life." The old man smiled in relief. "When I have the time, I will go to Tianyi Divine Nation to meet my old comrade." Boom! All of a sudden, the snow mountain collapsed, and heavy snow rolled down. On the other side of the endless mountain range, a powerful divine power could be faintly sensed, and it instantly soared into the sky. Zhao Anren's eyes turned. "Someone came here without permission?" The hemp-robed old man nodded. It seems like the natural enchantment outside has been broken. Someone has broken in divine light shone. Zhao Anren operated divine force. When she wanted to take action, the hemp-clothed elder stopped her. "Don't worry, we'll just watch the show." The old man smiled meaningfully. Sending the younger generation to test me? You want to force this old man to reveal his whereabouts. Unfortunately, this trip will not be so simple. At the peak of the snowy mountain, snowflakes swirled in the air. The storm raged high up in the sky, forcing a group of figures to go around the storm and descend. These figures were all young prodigies. The man's temperament was outstanding. Divine light was born out of nowhere. He was handsome and awe-inspiring, radiating with vigor. Perhaps he was young and handsome with excellent looks. His temperament was like a dragon or phoenix among men, 1 in 10,000. The woman's appearance was peerless and devastatingly beautiful. Precious light coiled around her body, and the power of laws rose. She was like a myriad of stars supporting the moon, and she was gorgeous in all sorts of ways. They were all Xing continent's prodigies who had entered Realm C. Every single one of them had accomplished great feats. If they were placed in the outside world, they would be true legends, drawing the worship of tens of thousands of people, great figures whose biographies were written about them. Today, there were actually more than 200 of these people gathered here. How long? At this time, there was actually surging majestic sword light that shot over from the southwest. Another 300 peerless geniuses descended. This was a group of prodigies who had accomplished great feats from Dragon Continent. From the north, west, and without prior agreement, divine light shot over from the sky, landing on the snowy mountains. The 5 great continents' peerless geniuses who had accomplished great feats actually arrived at the snowy mountains at the same time. On the other side, Xing continent's prodigies. They strolled over, walking between the snowy mountains. A beautiful woman couldn't help but say, "Realm C actually has this type of strange place. Even the perception of divine sense is cut off, and we can only see it with our naked eyes. Don't complain. This place is our final goal. As long as we find the steals of the traders mentioned above, we can just crush them all. This mission will be completed perfectly. Our great feats will be added to our list of great feats. The second layer of Realm C's experts aren't enough for us to kill. There isn't a single one that can fight. Don't be careless. This is the location of our final goal. It definitely won't be so simple. Don't let the prodigies of other continents get ahead of us." The handsome young master in the lead who gave the orders wore a swallow crown and long robes, a green jade crown on his head, and a white feather fan in his hand, looking like he was giving orders. It was Xing Continent's young master Qianling from Qian family. Beside him was Gu Ling Tian, who he had a conflict with before. However, the two seemed to have reached some kind of agreement, and Gu Ling Tian actually took the initiative to help young Master Qianling scout the way. His aura even rose to a whole new realm. On the other side of the snowy mountains, two beautiful and tall figures appeared. Big Sister Demonis, there are intruders. Don't be anxious. Let's take a look first. There are over 1,000 people here. All of them are prodigies from the 5 great continents. They aren't on the same level as the enemies we killed before. What are you afraid of? Let's beat them up first. These two women were precisely Yi Qingwu and Shun Lingshuang, who had wrecked the first layer of Realm C for an entire year. Yi Qingwu stopped Shun Lingshuang and glared at her. The people of Realm C are scattered sand. You can beat them up casually, but this group of people isn't a group without a leader. Don't mess around. We just hid it from the 4 divine guards and secretly raided a family in the 2nd layer of Realm C, and we haven't recovered yet. If we get injured later, how am I going to explain to your master? Then what about master? Do you still need to worry about your master? That old senior didn't make a move, which proves that he has his own judgment. Let's just watch the show. Yi Qingwu and Shun Lingshuang stayed on top of a snowy mountain, circulating their divine power to resist the cold. Looking at the snowy mountains in the distance, Yi Qingwu smiled playfully. The prodigies of various divine associations came to challenge the Realm C. If it was the previous routine, I'm afraid Lin Chen would join them, and then he would show off his brilliance and show off. It's a pity that times have changed. The snow was white, and the strong wind was like a song. When the prodigies strolled into the depths of the snowy mountains, a snowy mountain range was in front of them. At the highest point of the mountain range, there were 3 ancient talismans of 1,000 Snow Pass. And in front of the 1,000 Snow Pass, there were several divine mountains in the snowy mountain range, and there were tens of thousands of stone tablets. The eyes of the prodigies lit up. There was no mistaking it. The stone steels that filled the sky were the target of their trip. Shwa! The strong wind rolled up heavy snow, and another group of people came. It was the prodigies of the divine continent. The people of Star Continent are really fast. You guys almost got the credit first. Boom, boom, boom. Divine light penetrated, multicolored splendor filled the sky. Lightning flashed, and strong wind blew. Worthy of being the traitor's tablet that the higher-ups want to destroy, it contains a strong fighting spirit. To break it, one has to use the law. Hey, don't talk to yourself. My continent will take half of these 10 divine mountain stone tablets. You guys can divide the rest. Sorry, I'm not targeting your continent. I'm targeting all of you. You're all trash. We're not serving your aunt. What's the use of being so stubborn? If you have the guts, beat us down first. Yet another group of geniuses with divine power descended upon the world. Riding on divine power, these prodigies rushed to the front of the 1,000 Snow Pass. Thousands of prodigies, divided into 5 camps, arrived almost at the same time. They were all prodigies who had achieved great feats in the past 500 years. The number of prodigies from each continent ranged from 400 to 200, and 1,200 prodigies gathered in front of the 1,000 Snow Pass. Everyone present, except for a few from Star Continent, was a big shot who had achieved great feats. They were young and promising, and when they were in high spirits, no one was willing to submit to anyone. The atmosphere was tense, as if a big battle was about to happen. However, before everyone could start fighting, more than a dozen prodigies with sharp senses from each continent suddenly became alert, their faces full of surprise. What's that? There's a statue here? Under the vast 1,000 Snow Pass, a young man in a silver robe was sitting cross-legged, his body covered in snow. His eyes were closed, his eyebrows were raised, and his handsome face was well-defined. He was like an old monk in meditation, sitting quietly under the snow pass like a statue. Suddenly, young Master Qianling from Star Continent narrowed his eyes and said, "Something's not right. It's a living one." The prodigies instantly activated their laws, and the great Tao rumbled, and the wind and clouds changed. As soon as he finished speaking, the snow on the silver-robed young man's body fell. When the young man opened his eyes, the red light in his eyes was like a sharp sword, penetrating all the prodigies. When the prodigies saw his eyes, they instantly felt a stinging pain, as if their bodies were exposed to his eyes. All the prodigies from each continent focused their attention on him. The young man slowly stood up, and the snow receded. Suddenly, Guling Tian from Star Continent seemed to have thought of something, and he trembled. You were in 1,000 Snow Pass where the blizzard was howling. A ray of sunlight actually shone in for the first time, making the white snow shine brightly. The warm sunlight shone on the silver-robed young man. When the light shone on the snow, he stood alone against all the prodigies from the 5 continents of the heavenly realm. Remove the snow from your body and look back at the mortal world. Chapter 2015. The moment Yi Qing Wu saw Lin Chun come out of seclusion, her beautiful eyes shone brightly. In front of the 1,000 Snow Pass, more than 1,000 geniuses with great achievements had gathered. Lin Chun, Guling Tian, was shocked. At first, he couldn't recognize Lin Chun at first glance. The change in him was too great. Lin Chun, I seem to have heard of him before. Is he a new talent in the Realm Sea? While the geniuses of the 5 continents were discussing, only the geniuses of the Star Continent were shocked. The 5 continents were vast, and the news didn't spread so quickly to everyone's ears. However, in the Star Continent, Lin Chen's name had already shocked the younger generation, especially Prince Qianling, who led the Star Continent's camp. His expression was extremely ugly. Lin Chun, who was standing in front of all the geniuses, was calm as he spoke slowly. Geniuses of the 5 continents, this is not a place for you to come. Back off. While the geniuses were guarding the surroundings, the geniuses of the divine continent's camp sneered. Oh, you're only at the 2nd level of the divine realm, and you want to stop so many of us? Lin Chun was unperturbed. Because I'm a reasonable person, and I don't want to kill all of you. Everyone. Seeing this, Shun Ling Shuang, who was hiding on the snow mountain, opened her red lips slightly. She subconsciously asked, "Sister Fox, did Master take the wrong medicine?" According to her understanding of her master, when the situation was clear, he would attack without saying anything. Her master, who didn't care about life and death, was actually reasonable. This shocked his disciple for an entire year. Yi Qingwu's red lips parted slightly. No, your master has changed. He had become gentler? No. It could be said that Yi Qingwu had never seen such a powerful Lin Chun. He knew better than anyone else in the sacred boundary what he should do. Shun Ling Shuang pretended to sob pitifully. Master is not reckless anymore. My youth is over. He's no longer that handsome guy who picked up cultivation techniques. Boo-hoo, he's not handsome at all. I don't love him anymore. Clang. Snow and ice flew wildly as a deep blue sword light containing the laws of ice slashed down from the sky, directly slashing towards the stone tablet on the divine mountain. After confirming that there was no ambush nearby, the heavenly talents of the 5 continents attacked decisively. Following that, dozens of prodigies from the various factions of the 5 continents took out many divine artifacts. Following that, the sky was filled with strange phenomena. Lightning talismans appeared, containing the laws of lightning. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts swept towards 1,000 Snow Pass divine mountain. A storm of sword chi, surrounded by clouds, and mist came with a sword attack. It swept across the sky above 1,000 Snow Pass, overflowing with sword intent. The arrow light wrapped around the law of wind shot through thousands of feet, heading straight for the divine mountain. With Gang Chi burning, the domineering sun flame, 1,000 flames descended, forming a sea of fire. Move after move, peerless cultivation techniques mixed with the power of world-destroying laws struck towards Thousand Snow Pass. Their attacks were swift and fierce, causing those below the 6th level of the Divine Realm to be unable to react in time. Lin Shun raised a finger. Break! Buzz! A wisp of divine soul rippled out, and crimson divine flames instantly filled the sky, covering the entire Thousand Snow Pass. They burned through all the laws and divine powers, and all the attacks were burned to the point of exploding. He blocked it. The law of fire at the Ni transformation realm. But that's not right. Why is this law of fire so violent? The pupils of the prodigies constricted. In the next moment, Lin Shun stepped on the divine flames, and his figure disappeared like a ghost. Bang! 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 Divine radiance flashed, and the flames swept through everything in their path. The prodigies of the 5 continents standing at the front row were instantly sent flying. They were actually sent flying all over the sky. Those who were sent flying had flames burning all over their bodies, and they were in extreme pain. The prodigies at the back of the faction were horrified. They actually couldn't see clearly when the other party had attacked. Gu Lingtian's divine body from the Star Continents faction was instantly ignited. The protective divine artifact was burned until it was distorted. His divine soul and divine body were burned to ashes. Oh no! Young Master Qianling turned pale with fright. His cultivation at the 7th level of the Divine Realm erupted. Purple lightning appeared under his feet. Young Master Qianling controlled the laws of lightning and retreated at lightning speed. A flash of fire, which was mixed with the blazing and violent power of laws, suddenly hit young Master Qianling. Young Master Qianling opened his divine fan to block the attack. When he realized that Lin Shen's divine power was not as strong as his, he was about to rejoice. Chi, chi, chi. The divine fan that he was so proud of was instantly burned through. The fire was like an aurora that penetrated his divine body. What? There was a bloody hole in his chest. Shock was written all over Qianling's handsome face. Then, what was reflected in his vision was a fist that was burning with the law of fire. Lin Shun, who was wearing the wind god greaves and moving at high speed, suddenly punched down. Bang! Qianling was smashed down by the punch. His head was embedded into the snow mountain's ground, and his divine body was completely shattered. His divine soul rapidly left his body and flew at high speed. Just as he was fleeing in fear, a divine soul hand suddenly grabbed him tightly. No, Lin Shun, you can't kill me. I am Qi. The divine soul hand transmitted a wisp of the law of fire, burning young Master Qianling's divine soul into nothingness. Young Master Qianling couldn't understand it before he died. Why was it that the moment Lin Shun used his divine power to activate the law of fire, his attack power suddenly increased by several levels? In a battle of flash attacks, it was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. In less than 2 breaths, more than 300 outstanding prodigies from the 5 continents were sent flying. Young Master Qianling, who was at early stage level 7 of the Divine Realm, and Gu Lingtian, who was accompanying him, were instantly killed. Lin Shen stepped in front of everyone casually. His expression was calm, as if he had casually killed 2 chickens. If you take another step forward, there will be no reason to talk. All the outstanding prodigies were instantly stunned and rooted to the spot. They retreated thousands of feet. No one dared to rashly move forward. He had single-handedly stunned all the outstanding prodigies from the 5 continents. Who else in the current generation could have such battle prowess and boldness? Putting aside the 9 great heavenly ghosts, these more than 1,000 outstanding prodigies were much stronger than the 10,000 gods who had besieged them previously. Every one of them was between level 6 of the Divine Realm and late-stage level 7 of the Divine Realm. All of them had trump cards and strong foundations to fight against those of a higher level. So powerful. His law is so powerful that it defies the heavens. Master is even more handsome. Yi Qingwu and Shunling Shuang were dazzled, and their eyes lit up. But soon, a few late-stage level 7 prodigies from the Divine Continent's camp stood out again. Their eyes were deep as they stared at Lin Shun. Sir, you want to stop all of us by yourself? Your speed is very fast, and your law is very strange. But you can't stop all of us. I have fought against level 8 of the Divine Realm before. Why would I be afraid of you? The outstanding prodigies were not to be trifled with. They dared to fight, and their battle intent recovered very quickly. They had the feeling that they were going to regroup and fight Lin Shun to the end. After all, they had been wandering in the Second Realm Sea for nearly half a year before arriving here. This Thousand Snow Pass was their final goal. How could they give up on their final goal? However, before they finished speaking, 6 phantom divine lights descended beside Lin Shun. And then you guys continue to speak. I'm listening. The 6 Lin Shun smiled knowingly. Their bodies released a strong sense of oppression that was not inferior to the real body. The corners of the prodigy's mouths twitched wildly. There were actually 6 of them who were as strong as him. This Lin Shun, on the surface, looked like he was at level 2 of the Divine Realm. In reality, he was a... You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.